Sometimes I believe the lies of the deceiver. The lies of seeds, when they sprout, they lead to seasons of spiritual amnesia. Deep-seated self-doubt, it creeps in my conscience, feeds my fear. It keeps me up at night, conquered by critical thoughts. My mind is prone to conjure when it wanders, watching my failures. Playback on repeat. I try to change the chain of events, but can't rewind to find the delete button to push. I'm on the edge. It's like the world is about to end. I'm in the middle of Armageddon with no arms, no weapons, no armor for protection. It's the testing of my faith, and I know the answer, but instead I'm just guessing. Like I forgot that God was my father, and I was set apart for his own possession. His word is my armor and my protection against the enemy's deception. But still I question, how can I receive such an incredible blessing when I feel like I'm less than? Because I went through a divorce and a second-rate Christian. I know that's a lie, so I won't listen. Through Christ I'm forgiven. I'm being formed into his image. According to God, I was called from the darkness into his marvelous light. He is near to the brokenhearted and faithful to finish what he started.
Have you really considered the implications of what it takes to deny the theory of evolution? I mean, in doing so, you are willfully rejecting the research and expertise of the scientific majority. And you are practically accusing the leading institutions of our society of engaging in a worldwide conspiracy to suppress the truth of creation and to indoctrinate humanity with this fabricated propaganda. You know, that's a pretty bold accusation to make. I mean, you would have to be a conspiracy theorist to believe something like that, right? Well, and yet most Christians are comfortable to simply dismiss the scientific consensus when it comes to evolution. But for some reason, a lot of Christians are not willing to expand this skepticism beyond evolution. We confidently scoff at the science textbooks which claim that the universe is billions of years old, but then we turn around and accept everything else in the text. You know, we accept the existence of these spinning planets and solar systems and galaxies, despite our willingness to deny the very Big Bang by which the existence of these things relies on.
Today we celebrate the first glorious anniversary of the information purification directives. You created, for the first time in all history, a garden of pure ideology, where each worker may bloom, secure from the pests, obeying contradictory thoughts. Our unification of thoughts is more powerful a weapon than any fleet or army on earth. We are one people, with one will, one resolve, one cause. Our enemies shall talk themselves to death, and we will bury them with their own confusion. We shall prevail.
On January 24th, Apple Computer will introduce Macintosh. And you'll see why 1984 won't be like 1984.
Hey, they tricked us!
So, what should you do? You, the millennials and the Generation Z, what should you do differently? Most immediately, you are calling for the international community to safeguard vaccine equity, to respond to COVID-19 and prevent future health crises. Nobody will be safe if not everybody is vaccinated. Nobody will be safe if not everybody is vaccinated.
Hey, good evening, everybody, and thanks to everybody that's here. Got quite a few people in the chat already. Glad to see you all. Hope that we can talk a little bit tonight and hang out. But I did actually come with something to show you guys for once. So just threw this up here as Fallen World Films TV because I don't got too much of a stylistic agenda for the night. You know, no, not the usual highly produced, laid out thing I normally do for lives. Instead, just in my own research of looking at stuff, I've just came across some stuff that I was so excited just to kind of share with you guys. Something I was somewhat familiar with, but looked deeper into, and was just so blown away that coupled with the fact that it's been a long time since I've gone live, I felt like, you know what, I'm just going to go live and I'm just going to show these people what I'm looking at. So that's what we're going to be doing tonight. We're going, you know, you guys have heard of Event 201. You may have heard of Cladex. You know, you've heard of what the Operation Lockstep, right? And as we've come out of this pandemic, this idea of scenarios, you know, that these NGOs or non-governmental organizations come up with, you know, these think tanks, they come up with these agendas and scenarios for things that might occur in the future. This has been, you know, they've been doing this, these big government think tanks have been doing this for a long time. Shouldn't call them government think tanks. Like I just said, they're non-governmental. In the case of tonight, it's the National Intelligence Council. But, you know, it's just another institution that's up there with the World Economic Forum and all these other UN NGOs. And specifically, let me just first just greet you guys and just jump right into this. Well, okay, specifically, just like the Event 201 thing, just like the Cladex thing, you know, there have actually been a lot of published scenarios and white papers concerning what governments of this world could do in the hypothetical case that there was a pandemic. And now that we've gone through what we've gone through over the last few years, a lot of us that have known about, you know, these types of things haven't been too surprised by what we've seen, because these scenarios become opportunities for them to sort of test run, you know, the ways that new legislation and new agendas can be introduced to the world through the, you know, problem, reaction, solution situation of whatever crisis it is that the scenario is based on. In this case, the pandemic. So you guys have kind of seen this type of stuff before, but just before we get into all the boring stuff, there's going to be a lot of reading tonight. I'm going to do something that I've learned in my short time of being a YouTuber that is effective. And that's hit you with the hard stuff right away, and then we'll come back to it. But if you look over here on the right side of your screen, we're going to be looking at two different reports today from the National Intelligence Council. The first one is called Mapping the Global Future. And in this report, it's pretty much the National Intelligence Council, or the NIC. You worked with all these different varying experts, you know, in all these different fields that are related to, you know, social management, I guess, and just all, you know, all different things that relate to essentially UN Agenda 2030. This was before it was a UN Agenda 2030. This was back when Agenda 21, I believe, was the big rallying cry or call that all these different NGOs were rallying around. But regardless, let me just read you this. So this is actually from the 2008 one here, Global Trends 2025 from the NIC, page 75, Potential Emergence of a Global Pandemic. The emergence of a novel, highly transmissible, and virulent human respiratory illness for which there is no adequate countermeasures could initiate a global pandemic. If a pandemic disease emerges by 2025, again, the whole purpose of this report, written in 2008, published in 2008, was foreseeing circumstances that could be present in the year 2025 and how the government should respond to it. Page 75, this idea of a global pandemic. If a pandemic disease emerges by 2025, internal and cross-border tension and conflict will become more likely as nations struggle with degraded capabilities to control the movement of populations seeking to avoid infection or maintain access to resources. The emergence of a pandemic disease depends on the natural genetic mutation of I cannot read this on my screen, guys, because it's so small and I have no countermeasure around that. So I got to skip that word. But listen, of currently circulating disease strains of the emergence of a new pathogen into the human population. Experts consider highly pathogenic aviation influenza strains such as H5N1, you guys remember that, to be likely candidates for such transformation. But other pathogens such as the SARS coronavirus or other influenza strains also have this potential. Now, if a pandemic disease emerges, it probably will first occur in an area marked by high population density and close association between humans and animals. Now, again, think about what we learned through this whole COVID pandemic, such as many areas of China and Southeast Asia, where human populations live in close proximity to livestock. Unregulated animal husbandry practices could allow again, I can't read it because of the way this Streamlabs is set up. This zoo, something to do with animal disease such as H5N1 to circulate in livestock populations, increasing the opportunity for mutation into a strain with pandemic potential. To propagate effectively, a disease would have to be transmitted to areas of higher population density. Of course, in our case, they said it was a bat, right, or a monkey or whatever. Right there in the heart of China, this pandemic could begin. Under such a scenario, inadequate health monitoring capability with the nation of origin probably would prevent early notification of the disease. Slow public health response would delay the realization that a highly transmissible pathogen has emerged. Weeks might pass before definitive laboratory results could be obtained confirming the existence of such a disease with pandemic potential. In the something else I can't read, clusters of the disease would begin to appear in towns and cities within Southeast Asia. Despite limits imposed on international travel, which again, does this not just sound like I'm reading the news from a few years ago? Travelers with mild symptoms who were asymptomatic could carry the disease to other continents, just like what we heard happen. Waves of the new cases would occur every few months, right? Wave after wave. The absence of an effective V word and near universal lack of immunity would render populations vulnerable to infection. In this worst case, tens to thousands of millions, why do I keep doing that? In this worst case, tens to hundreds of millions of Americans within the US homeland would become ill and deaths would mount into the tens of millions. Outside the US, critical infrastructure degradation and economic loss on a global scale would result in approximately a third of worldwide population, as approximately a third of the worldwide population became ill and hundreds of millions died. Then it has these little asterisks down here that say US and global health organizations currently are working to develop V words that may prevent or mitigate influenza pandemics. Well, they didn't do it at warp speed. Only Trump was capable of doing that at warp speed, right? And giving us that magic potion that we needed. But a breakthrough in the next several years could reduce the risk posed by pandemic influenza during upcoming decades. And another thing I can't read. Now, the good news for you guys is I knew that these words were going to be real small. And when we actually get to this, I pulled up this. Well, I'm not going to, I guess it doesn't. I have another way to show you, so I'll be able to read it better. But yeah, so this is the type of thing that we're going to be getting into tonight. Now, that was published in the year 2008, long time ago, especially, in terms of this pandemic that's rolled out. And yeah, so you look at that and you can sort of see how, and this is just one example. There's a lot of scenarios, and I think I'm going to give you guys a realistic view of how this works. I mentioned Operation Lockstep, and during the pandemic, that was, a real popular, I wouldn't call it a conspiracy theory. It was true. And whatever that guy's name is, that the video that was featured in the video talking about Operation Lockstep, which that was a Rockefeller scenario. But it was, they, in that case, which I didn't pull up this information, but it was all about how the event of a pandemic could create the conditions that would justify and necessitate government lockdowns and government clamping down, right, and taking rights away and this and that. And this pandemic thing coming up in the 2008 Global Trends report doesn't just happen on page 75 of the second report here. So I really think that the most informative thing I could do for you guys would just be to go start with this first one and just read through it with you guys. What I did in my unprofessional journalistic way is I just wrote down page numbers that I wanted to show you guys on these. So yeah, we got a lot of reading ahead. I'm going to try to make this as painless as possible, but I think that a lot of these so-called predictions from these experts, back in the year 2004 and 2008, you're going to find really interesting in context to the world around us. And, you're going to have to ask yourself, like, are these just really good predictions made by the experts, or are the experts maybe responsible for more of what's going on than we seem to realize? But real quick, let's check in with you guys. I see that Amber has joined. I see Project Mockingbird, DK-spiracy saying the media is something that we're going to be getting into. This is my beautiful wife here, Amber O'Keefe. Don't mind me in the background cleaning and making my kids' lunches for tomorrow. So, and that's also why I started the show late. Amber was at work and I was running around chasing after the kids like usual.
And I went grocery shopping.
Amber went grocery shopping, and she worked. She might pop in a little later, she says. So sorry, we just got back. Nancy was getting sick. Everyone's getting sick. But yeah, so good to see you guys. So yeah, you guys find this to be an interesting topic. I'll tell you what, before I start reading through these, I have to, I kind of have to fix something over here. So check out this, this trailer for one of my favorite movies I ever made, and I'll be right back with the action.
Warning. The following film contains depictions of common sense and objective reality which may be disturbing to some viewers. Many of the views expressed in this film do not adhere to the official media-endorsed narrative. If you are hearing this message, please be aware that you are not supposed to be watching this film. You are not advised to learn this information or to consider these ideas. Please reject and disregard everything you are about to see. Rest assured that powerful people are working hard to hide this film from you. Take comfort in knowing that by the year 2030, all information will be filtered through liberal fact checks and pre-approved by the federal government before being made accessible to the public. One great thing about the new normal is that your access to information is being restricted. Soon you won't need to worry about accidentally learning something that the government doesn't want you to know. And for the safety of the community, your ability to share information is being restricted as well, protecting yourself and others from any unwanted influence you might otherwise have. It is of critical importance that we move toward the complete removal of the First Amendment, because there is a secret that must be protected at all costs, and a reality that must never be revealed. The world must never know that our system is hinged on a great deception. They must never learn that the very lie that Satan told Eve in the Garden of Eden is also the foundation on which our society was built. We must conceal that truth by any measure necessary, because in a world that was built on a lie, the truth must be forbidden.
All right. What? We'll just, you got to tell me something. Amber's got to tell me something, you guys. Hold on.
And now a word from our sponsors.
I don't care. Touchy camcorder with DVD. Regular price $3.99. Right now, $1.99. Computer or laptop, only $1.99. DVD for $29. Or DVD VCR for $49. Otherwise, I'll break my head. What do you want for my life? I'm giving you for $79. Home theater. If you don't buy for Crazy Gigan, you have a problem with your head. I changed my mind!
After 2 long years, Torrance Avenue is finally open. It's bigger and better than ever before. It seems as if everyone's forgotten that it's here.
I guess bad things do happen to good people every day. If your credit is a bit bumped and bruised, see the loan arranger at Ridgeway Chevrolet for your second chance auto loans. Call 1-800-NEW-RIDE. Call today, drive today. It's that easy.
Hey folks, it's the Iceman for the #1 pre-owned dealer in the area with the best selection and the best quality you're going to find anywhere. We've got payments from only $199 a month, and you can drive off with only $199 down. Oh, keep it rolling. Keep it rolling. Somebody, keep it rolling. We've got pre-owned vans just like this at the lowest prices around.
No annoying commercial.
Is talking on the phone getting out of hand? Look out! You need phone relief. The ultimate in hands-free phone design. Watch. Simply attach the special double back fastener to any phone. Then attach the phone relief headset. It's that easy. Hands-free, pain-free. You'll wonder how you ever lived without it. It's perfect for remotes. Now talk hands-free anywhere, anytime. Office work is a pain for Mr. Phone in the Neck, but you won't miss a beat with hands-free freedom. A must for the entire office. Work goes quicker and easier. The padded headset removes this easily and is fully adjustable. Best of all, phone relief works with your favorite phone. An amazing breakthrough product you'll use every day. Now only $12.95. Call toll-free to order by credit card and make this your last Phone in the Neck call.
All right. So thanks for bearing with me through that, you guys. Let's just get right into this. So with this first one, I am going to struggle to read it a little bit, you guys. You know that I'm unprofessional because you know I'm unpaid and I'm not too tech savvy. And I just felt like, as somebody that, you know, is really just a viewer like you guys of other people's channels, one thing I just like is information and getting it from the source. And I felt like the best way to show this to you guys was to download the PDFs and just put them right up on the screen, the full PDFs. Problem is, each one of these things is about 120 some pages long. So I'm going to be skipping around, going to information I want to share with you. But what I did is down in the description of this video right now, I put a link to both of these PDFs. And I would encourage you guys to go ahead and just click them right now. And you'll immediately go to this very same information I'm looking at. I'll be saying the page numbers. That way you can read along with me and you can catch the words that I'm mispronouncing, because since my text is so small on my phone, on my computer window I got to look at here. And you'll be able to have it for yourself. And then you can continue to read through more information than I'm going to be able to share. I'm going to start doing this when I do these types of live streams, by the way. If I'm going to be sharing documents with you guys from now on, I'll try to remember to make sure to link it down below when possible so that you guys could just have it for yourselves. Plus, now you know I'm not pulling any punches. But because of that, the way I had to do this was write down pages that I wanted to check out. So this is the first report that you'll see down in the description. I really hope some of you guys will do this. Tomorrow at work when, you know, you're on your bathroom break, it's an interesting type of thing to just kind of, sift through. But so I put here, page 10 is the first one I need to go to. Okay. So here we go. From Mapping the Global Future from the National Intelligence Council from their 2004 report. We see how do I get rid of this? Wasn't there a way, Amber, we figured out before?
What?
This thing that says slide 14. And it's like, I don't want to, okay, that worked. We see globalization, New World Order, growing interconnectedness we see globalization, growing interconnectedness reflected in the expanded flows of information, technology, capital, goods, services, and people throughout the world as an overreaching megatrend, a force so ubiquitous that it will subsequently shape all of the major trends of the world in 2020. Now, mind you, this is geared towards the year 2020. So, I mean, nobody knows better than us now how accurate they are. But the future of globalization is not fixed. States and non-state actors, including both private companies and NGOs, will struggle to shape its contours. Again, because based on the assumption that we just have to do this thing and have to create this one world government. Some aspects of globalization, such as the growing global interconnectedness stemming from the information technology or IT revolution, almost certainly will be irreversible. Yet it is also possible, although unlikely, that the process of globalization it is also possible, although unlikely, that the process of globalization could be slowed or even stopped, just as the era of globalization in the late 19th and early 20th centuries was reversed by catastrophic war and global depression. Okay, now hence the pandemic, which gave them a time to readdress some of these plans. We'll get into that. Barring such a turn of events, the world economy is likely to continue growing impressively. By 2020, it is projected to be about 80% larger than it was in 2000, and average per capita income will be roughly 50% higher. Of course, there will be a cyclical ups and downs of periodic financial or other crises, but the basic growth trajectory has powerful momentum behind it. They don't get into the inflation that has pretty much nullified any type of increase, But so I'm going to skip past this because we actually got a lot to get through here. But, all of these reports, and I hope you guys will get in the habit yourselves with your downtime to start looking into these NGO reports that I talk about all the time on this channel. But, it always starts out with this introduction that's just kind of laying the groundwork for the geopolitical relationships between different countries at the time that this is being written, especially in these projections for like how they expect things to be in the future and these scenario type things. And that's kind of what they're doing in the whole first, probably 20 pages of this. But there's still some stuff I wanted to point out. But so I'm just going to kind of skim through, just kind of laying some, the framework for what they're going to be talking about. Okay, but down here, starting on page 12, new challenges to governance. So this is something that I wanted to kind of go over with you guys. The nation state will continue to be the dominant unit of the global order, but economic globalization, and the dispersion of technologies, especially information technologies, will place enormous new strains on governments. And I'm going to stop button in here, but again, here we are in 2023. The information technologies, the social media, the technological advancements that have happened in terms of communication and stuff since this was even written in 2004. I'm not trying to make it sound like 2004 was the Stone Age, but you got to admit a lot has changed since then. And as we go through this literature, you'll be kind of intrigued, I guess, by the way that the language that they use to describe something that is now commonplace to us, but it's all future tense. Anyways, growing connectivity will be accompanied by the proliferation of virtual communities of interest, complicating the ability of states to govern. The internet in particular will spur the creation of even more global movements, which may emerge as a robust force in international affairs. Part of the pressure on governance will come from new forms of identity politics centered on religious convictions. Because again, the agendas that they knew were going to be unraveling were going to push on the convictions of, many religious people. But anyways, in a rapidly globalizing world experiencing population shifts, religious identities provide followers with a ready-made community that serves as a social safety net in times of need, particularly important to migrants. In particular, political Islam will have a significant global impact leading to 2020, rallying disparate ethnic and national groups, and perhaps even creating an authority that transcends national boundaries. A combination of factors, youth bulges, which just means like a large amount of young people in a population. In many Arab states, poor economic prospects, the influence of religious education, and the Islamization of such institutions as trade unions, non-governmental organizations, and political parties will ensure that political Islam remains a major force. It's going to go on to all this stuff with Islam. And again, mind you, 2004, like this is the National Intelligence Council is an American thing. This is right in the midst of the war on terror. This is shortly after the 9/11 stuff. And a lot of the stuff in this particular report is about like WMDs, weapons of mass destruction, and Islamic terrorism. But there's also a lot in here about how much they anticipate for the Muslim nations to advance technologically and almost even take a lead along with India and China coming into this new world that we've come to recognize now as the Great Reset, the Fourth Industrial Revolution, right? But back at this time, it was just how they anticipated the global governance of the future to be. Anyways, my point is that these Islamic nations, you know, one of the sources that I get a lot of my information from comes from the United Emirates. There's a summit over there called the Global Governance Summit, and it's run by the United Emirates, and there's all these you know, it's essentially a lot of Middle Eastern interests and things that we don't hear about much in our news are kind of, you know, the centerpiece of what's how it's a good way to articulate what I'm even trying to say here. These guys run the. All right, I'm gonna look it up on my phone real quick so I can word this better. Global governance channel. Nah, whatever. Amateur stuff over here, you guys. Maybe I'll get back to that after I do another commercial break. But the point is that this was an accurate prediction, and believe it or not, you know, I know in America, when you think of the state of things in the Middle East, you know, we kind of imagine like a somewhat primitive culture by comparison, but actually a lot of the you know, trending technological advancements are coming out of there. But anyways, I wanted just to point out how their prediction for 2025 is now the internet is going to become, you know, a huge player when it comes in government interactions and in war and in conflict. And I decided right now that I don't want to read through all this because of how long it's already taken, how much there is here. But let's just skip over to page 16 for those of you who downloaded this. Possible futures. In this era of great flux, we see several ways in which major global changes could take shape in the next 15 years, from seriously challenging the nation-state system to establishing a more robust and inclusive globalization. In the body of this paper, we developed these concepts in 4 fictional scenarios, which were extrapolated from key trends that we discuss in this report. These scenarios are not meant as actual forecasts, but they describe possible worlds upon whose threshold we may be entering, depending on how trends interweave and play out. And you don't even want to know how much taxpayer money probably goes, you know, into paying for people to come up with these different scenarios and play them out. If you've seen any of the footage from Event 201 and, you know, the type of planning and time that goes into that, well, this has been a popular thing apparently for a real long time. I mean, this is almost 20 years old, you guys. And this is just a commonplace example of what they do all the time, just like these different scenarios. And they interview all these different experts and they play war games, and, you know, it's a big waste. But in some ways, through doing that, they obviously do extract the information that they intend to get, you know, because look again at what's happened over these last 3 or 4 years now since the pandemic started, right? And you're going to see that no governments were just responding according to their best, you know, instincts and just, you know, making good decisions according to the actual circumstances. Like, you're going to see, if you haven't seen already, that the whole thing from the very start till right now, till what happens next, I mean, it was all just pre-planned, you know, and these big worldwide, I don't choose to use the word global, although they do, but crises that result in, you know, the world changing. Well, it's all the basis of pre-existing agendas, you know, and the stuff of conspiracy theory is becoming more and more just the stuff of demonstrable reality. That's another reason I wanted to put this PDF up here for you guys, you know, because it'd be easy just to come along this channel right now as I'm just reading through this and just call me a tinfoil hat, you know, guy. Doom, what do they call them? What do they call us? Doom and gloomers or whatever. Point is, all I'm doing is just reading this actual, you know, report from the National Intelligence Council. So anyways, in this one, there are 4 scenarios. They say Davos world. Davos provides an illustration of how robust economic growth led by China and India over the next 15 years could reshape the globalization process, blah, blah, blah. I decided not to read that. Pax Americana takes a look at how the U.S. predominance may survive the radical changes to the global political landscape and serve to fashion a new and inclusive global order. Then there was a new caliphate. That was another scenario, right? The Muslims take over. Provides an example of how a global movement fueled by radical religious identity politics could constitute a challenge to Western norms and values as the foundation of the global system. And finally, cycle of fear provides an example of how concerns about proliferation might increase to the point that large-scale intrusive security measures are taken to prevent outbreaks of deadly attacks or viruses, possibly introducing an Orwellian world. Of course, these scenarios illustrate just a few of the possible futures that may develop over the next 15 years. But the wide range of possibilities that we can imagine suggests that this period will be characterized by increased flux, particularly in contrast to the relative stasis of the Cold War era. The scenarios are not mutually exclusive. We may see 2 or 3 of these scenarios unfold in some combination or a wide range of other scenarios. Well, frankly, all 4 of these scenarios, elements of it already do exist. But we got way too much to go through. I'm doing the thing I always do, stopping every sentence so that I can just start rambling and forgetting what I'm talking about. Got to work on that, you guys. I'm the last person that should ever be hosting a show. What I am is somebody that just has a mind and a brain just full of all this stuff I cram into it. And I need some outlet to put it out there. And I'm so thankful to you of my subscribers who deal with this and the way I narrate things. And I know that some of you are extracting important stuff from these live streams I do, and you are very generous to me in the comments and all that. So just want to let you subscribers know, thank you for that. Thank you for dealing with me and my stuttering and my stammering. And I hope it also gives you more appreciation for my documentary films, that I have that I'm able to edit and present with more clarity. But I hope you are still enjoying and following with me here as we go through this. So 16, I said I wanted to read over the next 15 years, this is on page 18. Over the next 15 years, the increasing centrality of ethical issues, old and new, have the potential to divide worldwide politics and challenge U.S. leadership. These issues include the environment and climate change, privacy, cloning. So cloning was something they were really worried about in 2004, and that was around the time that there was the Dalai Lama or whatever her name was, and I think Rael was right around that time. The Raelianism. But if you guys stick with this channel, they're still up to the same old stuff. But anyways, cloning and biotechnology, another old conspiracy theory that's now our everyday life. Human rights, international law regulating conflict, and the role of multilateral institutions. The United States increasingly will have to battle world public opinion, which has dramatically shifted since the end of the Cold War. Some of the new current anti-Americanism is likely to lessen as globalization takes on more of a non-Western face. If you read any of the white papers and NGO stuff from this period all the way up till now, there was always a real big push or a real big implication, that America and American values cannot be the face of the New World Order, or as they put it, globalization. Some of the current anti-American, blah, blah, blah. At the same time, the younger generation of leaders, unlike during the post-World War II period, has no personal recollection of the United States as a liberator and is more likely to diverge with the Washington thinking on a range of issues, with Washington's thinking on a range of issues. In helping to map out the global future, the United States will have many opportunities to extend its advantages, particularly in shaping a new international order that integrates disparate nations and reconciles divergent interests. Okay, moving along, because literally this has taken me forever and there's still so much. You guys, I hope that you are downloading this first link here, or at least got the PDF on your phones, and just save that tab and read through this on your own time. Check this out. So here's in the first, again, 2004 issue. What could derail globalization? Well, the process of globalization, powerful as it is, could be substantially slowed or even stopped. Short of a major global conflict, which we regard as improbable, another large-scale development that we believe could stop globalization would be a pandemic. Again, so this is the other report, you guys. They're also saying a pandemic could stop globalization, as I said earlier, or create a pause to kind of, reset your pieces on the game board. However, other catastrophic developments, such as terrorist attacks, could slow its speed. Some experts believe that it's only a matter of time before a new pandemic appears, such as the 1918-1919 influenza virus that killed an estimated 20 million worldwide. Such a pandemic in megacities of the developing world with poor healthcare systems in the sub-Saharan Africa, China, India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan would be devastating and could spread rapidly throughout the world. You don't say. Globalization would be endangered if the death toll rose into the millions in several major countries and the spread of the disease put a halt to global travel and trade during an extended period. What if there wasn't actually a real pandemic, though, and nobody was actually getting sick and dying in record numbers, but they still shut down all the travel and still shut down all the businesses and forced the economic changes that this thing is talking about? What if that happened? If the pandemic maybe just didn't pan out, but the agendas still worked. The agenda still went through. It's just that the pandemic part didn't pan out. But the changes were still made, prompting governments to expend enormous resources on overwhelmed health sectors, right? The old overwhelmed health sectors, remember that? The hospitals where you couldn't even find any parking space. Do you remember that? I mean, I don't. I'm asking you guys if you remember that. On the positive side of the ledger, the response to SARS showed that international surveillance and control mechanisms are becoming more adept at containing diseases, and new developments in biotechnologies hold the promise of continued improvement. A slowdown could result from a pervasive sense of economic and physical insecurity that led governments to put controls on the flow of capital, goods, people, and technology that stalled economic growth. Oh, and we're going to get into this technology. Such a situation could come about in response to terrorist attacks, killing tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands in several U.S. cities or in Europe, or to widespread cyber attacks on information technology. Border controls and restrictions on technology exchanges would increase economic transaction costs and hinder innovation and economic growth. Other developments that could stimulate similar restrictive policies include a popular backlash against globalization. Okay, check that out. Other developments that could stimulate similar restrictive policies, think lockdown, include a popular backlash against globalization prompted, perhaps, like protests and stuff like that, by white-collar rejection of outsourcing in the wealthy countries and or resistance in poor countries whose people saw themselves as victims of globalization. This continues on, and but I'm not kidding when I say we got so much. This, where it left off, was here. The world economy is projected to be about 80% larger, blah, 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 and a numerically large middle class will be created for the first time in some formerly poor countries. The social structures in those developing countries will be transformed as growth creates a greater middle class over a long time frame. You guys, if you could see what I'm looking at and just saw how small the letters are I got to read, you would understand why I'm struggling so much to read this, and I'm doing my best for you. But it's all for the sake of having the screen look cool to you, and to not have to stall for a long time while I figure out a better way to do this. But this is, again, I just please forgive my technical, amateurishness. Let's just move on. This is obviously getting into some economic stuff. It's all relatively interesting to read through. The technology revolution on page 34 of this first report. The trend toward rapid global diffusion of technology will continue, although the stepped up technology revolution will not benefit everyone equally. Among the drivers of the growing availability of technology will be the growing two-way flow of high-tech brain power between developing countries and Western countries, the increasing size of the technologically literate workforce in some developing countries, and efforts by multinational corporations to diversify their high-tech operations. Now, I suppose this is, as long as computing's been a thing, this has been a thing, this concept of that, you need to stay with the times, and like the old ways of doing things become obsolete. And in order, at some point, frankly, right around the time frame that this report was constructed and everything was becoming digitized, and put onto the internet. And so, but they're looking forward here to 2020. And what they're really describing, in my opinion, is like a previous knowledge that about the eventual rollout of things like AI, that now we're undergoing. And then I suppose that next would be, oh, what do they call it? Well, I'm losing my train of thought. I'll come back to that as soon as I remember the word. Anyways, I'm sorry, you guys. Let me just keep reading. But man, it is bothering me that I can't. Quantum computing, right? I've read things in these reports from this era, even in these two reports, that make me think that there was already a general knowledge of the upcoming quantum computing, just based off of the claims that they make about about abilities that people will have in the future, and technologies that will exist that are only capable through the use of things like quantum computing and AI. So I don't believe that these things rolled out in the natural way that we think they did just in recent times. I think they've been around a long time. Anyways, new technology applications will foster dramatic improvements in human knowledge and individual well-being. Such benefits include medical breakthroughs that begin to cure or mitigate some common diseases and stretch lifespans, applications that improve food and potable water production, and expansion of wireless communications and language translation technologies that will facilitate transnational business, commercial, and even social and political relationships. That describes the time we're in now, maybe depending on your perspective of it, but that technology is definitely here. Moreover, future technology trends will be marked not only by accelerating advancements in individual technologies, but also by force multiplying convergence of the technologies, information, biological materials, and nanotechnologies that have the potential to revolutionize all dimensions of life. I don't want to explain to you guys what nanotech is because I'm hearing my own voice too much. I'd rather just keep reading this, but if you don't know, And again, that's another thing that just now is our everyday reality. I remember in 2004, if somebody like Alex Jones or something mentioned nanotech, even that was a conspiracy theory, even though obviously the technology existed and was real, but it was kind of new at this time. And so their projections for 2020, somewhere in here, you're going to see they were thinking by this point, we would already have the tags on, random office supplies and on everything at the grocery store. And for all I know, maybe we do. And again, I'm ranting too much, but I get excited when I read this kind of stuff, especially in the context of what it is here. Again, this is a 2004 report from the National Intelligence Council. Anyways, materials enabled with nanotechnologies, sensors, and facilitated by information technology will produce myriad devices that will enhance health and alter business practices and models. This is happening now. They were right about that. Such materials will provide new knowledge about environment, improve security, and reduce privacy. I like how they say reduce privacy. They just mentioned two good things and reduce privacy as if it's another good thing. Anyways, such interactions of these technology trends, coupled with agile manufacturing methods and equipment, as well as energy, water, and transportation technologies, will help China and India's prospects for joining the first world. Both countries are invested in basic research in these fields and are well placed to be leaders in a number of key fields. Europe risks slipping behind Asia in creating some of these technologies. The United States is still in a position to retain its overall lead, although it must increasingly compete with Asia and may lose significant ground in some sectors. Okay, I'm going to have to move on, you guys, but another thing you're going to see a lot in these reports if you skim through them is just the gradual decline of American power. They continue to say, that the American institution will continue to kind of lead the charge, but we're going to lose a lot of our I don't want to use the word authority, but I guess just power by this time. And again, you start to see how that's all planned as well, and let me just I'm going to need to take another quick break before I keep getting into this crazy stuff, you guys, to kind of get my head back together so I don't keep stumbling over my words so much. That's just something I can't help. But I really do have some profound ideas regarding the stuff we're reading I want to share with you guys, and I'm struggling to articulate it. So yeah, let me just read through this paragraph, show you guys another quick little thing, and come back charged. To adaptive nations go technology spoils. To adaptive nations go technology spoils. The gulf between haves and have-nots may widen as the greatest benefits of globalization accrue to countries and groups that can access and adopt new technologies. Indeed, a nation's level of technological achievement generally will be defined in terms of its investment in integrating and applying the new globally available technologies, whether the technologies are acquired through a country's own basic research or from technology leaders. Nations that remain behind in adopting technologies are likely to be those that have failed to pursue policies that support application of new technologies, such as good governance, universal education, and market reforms, and not solely because they are poor. Those that employ such policies can leapfrog stages of development, skipping over phases that other high-tech leaders, such as the United States and Europe, had to traverse in order to advance. So all this is really going to get at here is how these new technologies that they're anticipating in 2020, and they're right about this, like through the advent of the internet and through the abilities that, it levels the playing field is essentially what they're saying. And some of these entire nations and governmental systems that struggled to, keep up with the more sophisticated and rich societies back in the old world, they're saying, well, in the new world and through the internet, the countries and governments that get ahead of the curve and that, stay on top of the technological trends will be able to compete, will be able to have a seat at the table, with nations that previously dominated over them. And we truly are seeing that right now. But again, I believe it's part of a whole staged thing that has to do with creating an antichrist global government dictatorship, right? But it is happening, and the internet has been essential in making that a possibility. And I could keep. Is there more I wanted to read in this little part? Again, each of these reports, you guys, is 126 pages. So if it seems like I'm skipping around a lot, that's because we got 240 pages to go through. Nations will also face serious challenges in oversight, control, and prohibition of sensitive technologies. Right now, we're seeing this with AI. With the same technologies such as sensors, computing, communications, and materials increasingly being developed for a range of applications in both everyday commercial settings and in critical military applications, the monitoring and control of the export of technological components will become more difficult. Moreover, joint ventures, globalized markets, and the growing proportion of private sector capital in basic research and development, or R&D, will undermine nation-state efforts to keep tabs on sensitive technologies. Questions concerning a country's ethical practices in the technology realm, such as with genetically modified foods, okay, so GMOs have obviously taken over since this too. Here's another 2004 here, guys. Data privacy out the window now. Biological material research, concealable sensors, and biometric devices. Again, something a newer idea back then. Not anymore. May become an increasingly important factor in international trade policy and foreign relations. All right, let me show you guys another real quick little thing. Give me a breath, like I said, and please let me get my head together. And because what's up next? Biotechnology. What does that say? Panacea and weapon. So yeah, you're not going to want to miss that. So I'll be right back after I put What am I going to make you guys watch? Maybe this.
The world is full of places to explore and things to discover. There's truly so much to see. But unfortunately, we are sometimes forced to see things that we don't like, people that we do not agree with, facts that we refuse to accept. A recent study shows that over 90% of adults who have viewed offensive materials have experienced hurt feelings. But not anymore. Introducing Sight Shield, the first and only set of glasses designed to protect your eyes from bigotry and misinformation. Thanks to Sight Shield's patented Boo-hoo block technology, you can now live in peace, safely hidden from everything going on around you. Here's how it works. We take an ordinary pair of sunglasses and we apply not one, not two, but 10 layers of window tint to the lenses, making it nearly impossible to see what's clearly right in front of you. This ensures that your eyes will always remain covered, even in the most bigoted and triggering environments. And here's the best part. If you order your set of Sight Shield glasses within the next 48 hours, we'll throw in a pair of our famous Fear Plug earplugs absolutely free. Now you can protect your eyes and ears from reality simultaneously. So what are you waiting for? Order yours today. Sight Shield, a proud sponsor of Fallen World Films.
Find yourself struggling to keep up with the latest gender pronouns? Are you tired of being called out for not being woke enough? Well, have no fear. The Woketionary is here. The Woketionary is your one-stop for all the latest and greatest gender pronouns in the new world. That's right, forget everything you learned in school and embrace the new language of inclusivity. Because with the Woketionary, you'll never have to feel left out of the latest trends again. You'll be able to keep up with all the different pronouns being invented on a daily basis. So join the Woke Brigade and order your copy of the Woketionary today. Call now at 1-800-WOKEtionary. That's 1-800-WOKEtionary. The Woketionary. Because in the new world, reality is a thing of the past.
All right. Just laughing at you guys in the comments. If I have any intention of getting onto this second report tonight, I just got to keep rolling through these guys, those that are hanging out with me. But yeah, let me know in the comments if I'm annoying you too much with my wordiness or if you're enjoying the content. At the very least, I hope that you'll appreciate it through the links down in the description for these. And I'm passing the information along so that you can feel free to read it at your own speed if you don't like the way I'm narrating this. But I also know you guys always tell me I'm too hard on myself, so I'll just shut up. Page 36 of Mapping a Global Future from the National Intelligence Council in the year 2004 says, the biotechnological revolution is at a relatively early stage, and major advances in the biological sciences coupled with information technology will continue to punctuate the 21st century. Research will continue to foster important discoveries in innovative medical and public health technologies, environmental remediation, agriculture, biodefense, and related fields. On the positive side, biotechnology could be a leveling agent between developed and developing nations, spreading dramatic economic and healthcare enhancements to the neediest areas of the world. Think about this, dramatic economic and healthcare advancements to the neediest areas of the world. You guys, do I need to explain to anybody that might be watching this right now that biotechnology, what is that referring to? Well, it's referring to biology and technology. Your human biology and tech. We're talking right now about nanotech. We're talking about transhumanism. We're talking about man and machines. We're talking about not smartwatches, although I guess that would count. It would count. But, my first documentary I made was called Chipped. And I'm telling you guys, again, this is from 2004. But the vision that our leaders in this world have for the future is one where we are connected to the internet. I don't know how many more times I could say it. And as this is so interesting, because think about this in context with Revelation 13, right? And with the mark of the beast. I'm not saying that the chip will be a mark of the beast, but what I have been saying, and in the mark of the beast in the Bible, it says you won't be able to buy or trade or sell, if you don't have the mark. And well, the same thing has been said about the chip, right? The chip will have your bank attached to it. Now we see the way that these digital currencies are being rolled out and all of it. Consider this last paragraph I just read and think deep. What is it saying? It's saying on the positive side of biotechnology, and it's being real vague. It's being ambiguous. It's not saying exactly what devices, what type of biotech it's talking about. But what it is saying is that type of technology could be a leveling agent between developed and developing nations. Could be something that could help a developing nation be on track with a developing nation. How? By spreading dramatic economic and healthcare enhancements. Well, what type of biotech could improve the economic status of anybody, let alone somebody in a developing nation, right? If not like some kind of like chip that could plug you into, some type of global economy. Healthcare enhancements, and this will even get into whether it's those chips that can release medicine at intervals or whatever it is. This is what we're talking about here in 2004. Their predictions for the year 2020 biotech. Possible breakthroughs in biomedicine, such as an antiviral barrier, will reduce the spread of HIV and AIDS, helping to resolve another thing that was really hot at this time, helping to resolve the ongoing humanitarian crisis in sub-Saharan Africa and diminishing the potentially serious drag on economic growth in developing countries like India and China. Biotechnology research and innovations derived from continued U.S. investments in homeland security, such as new therapies that might block a pathogen's ability to enter the body, may eventually have revolutionary healthcare applications that extend beyond protecting the U.S. from a terrorist attack. More developing countries probably will invest in indigenous biotechnology developments, while competitive market pressures increasingly will induce firms and, I think that's what it says, and research institutions to seek technically capable partners in developing countries. However, even as the dispersion of biotechnology promises a means of improving the quality of life, it also poses a major security concern. You think? As biotechnology information becomes more widely available, the number of people who can potentially misuse such information and wreak widespread loss of life will increase. An attacker would appear to have an easier job because of the large array of possibilities available than the defender, who must prepare against them all, right? It'd be a lot easier for the guy that can use all types of ways to attack you than for the guy that has to defend yourself against all those different attacks. An attacker would appear to have, that's what I said. Moreover, as biotechnology advances become more ubiquitous, stopping the progress of offensive BW programs will become increasingly difficult. Over the next 10 to 20 years, there is a risk that the advances in biotechnology will augment not only defensive measures, but also offensive biological warfare, agent development, and allow the creation of advanced biological agents designed to target specific systems, human, animal, or crop. And literally, I think they're just like envisioning, when this nanotech and biotech is just, connected to every living thing on Earth, that opens up the threat for people, for hackers to exploit those systems and literally kill people and hurt things. Lastly, some biotechnology techniques that may facilitate major improvements in health will also spur serious ethical and privacy concerns over such matters as comprehensive genetic profiling, stem cell research, and the possibility of discovering DNA signatures that indicate predisposition for disease, certain cognitive abilities, or antisocial behavior. Man, that has become a hot button issue again in our time. And what's sad is like the result of the technology that supposedly can help discover DNA signatures that indicate predisposition of things like, disease or cognitive abilities, or, would be that mothers will be encouraged to just terminate pregnancies if you're going to have a kid with Down syndrome, or that's going to have some type of, so-called disability. And frankly, when there's no way to get into the area and research, which they were already doing, of course, at this time and long before it, in 2004. But remember what we're reading here. By the time 2020 rolls around, according to this think tank, it will now be common practice, right? So here we are in 2023, and it is kind of becoming common practice. And you guys, you know what it is? It's eugenics. It's eugenics. Eugenics isn't only, genocide, and it isn't only abortion. It's the notion of creating a superior race, and for people like to take on the mantle or the role of what's the word? I'm having a hard time talking to you guys. Eugenics is not only abortion. It's not only genocide. It's any type of scientific or human pursuit of creating supremacy within the human race. Okay. And to me, that's what this is. At the same time, technology will be a source of tension in 2020, from competition over creating and attracting the most critical components of technological advancement, people, to resistance among some cultural or political groups, to the perceived privacy robbing or homogenizing effects of pervasive technology. You guys, I wanted to actually read on the next few pages of this because it gets so deep, but I got to keep moving. Here because we're not far enough along. So that was page 34. Let's get to. All right. Flipping on through this thing. Hope you guys downloaded it. I'm going to page 75. This right here was so annoying for me to read, and I'm not going to make you guys read it. But they tried to use this font that looks like writing in a book. This is like one of their scenarios. This is the Pax American scenario. I do recommend you guys read through it. It gave me such a headache reading through this, man. So sorry in advance if you choose to try to do that. Okay, so I put here high-tech pressures on governance. Today, individual PC users in 2004 have more capacity at their fingertips than NASA had with the computers used in its first fake moon launches. The trend toward even more capacity, speed, affordability, and mobility will have enormous political implications. Myriad individuals and small groups, many of whom have not been previously so empowered, will not only connect with one another, but will plan, mobilize, and accomplish tasks with potentially more satisfying and efficient results than their governments can deliver. So this is definitely occurring now. This almost certainly will affect individuals' relationships with and views of their governments, and will put pressure on some governments for more responsiveness. So social media has just done this. They were really concerned about, the internet and the ability that would give consumers and citizens, to interact with the government, and to more importantly, to do what I'm doing on my channel right now, and to create communities and to be able to, particularly for any type of, people that would stand against this globalization, the internet would become, that was their concern. There was a real threat that the internet could aid in people like you and me being able to stand up to this system. So to put it all into a nutshell, those 20 pages. Climate change and its implications through 2020, voices going out already. In 2004, you got to think like An Inconvenient Truth, right? And Al Gore, this was right in that time frame. It was not yet the new religion of the world like it is now. And you're going to notice in the next report from 2008 how how weapons of mass destruction was replaced by climate change. Because in this report, even though I've been skipping past most of it, a lot of this stuff I'm skipping past. It's talking about terrorism and the war on terror. It's talking a lot about WMDs, which is funny because this came out in 2004. I believe 2004 is when it became common knowledge that there were no WMDs, the whole Bush thing. But that was like one of the main central points of fear and concern in this report. And I skipped over a lot of it because, as you're seeing, there's too much other stuff I wanted to get to. But you're going to see how in the next one it kind of shifts to global warming, right? And so this was kind of the inception of that, the initiation of that. I might as well, man. I've already read all this other stuff. The regional experts who attended our conference felt that Russia's political development since the fall of communism had been complicated by the continuing search for a post-Soviet national identity. Putin has increasingly appealed to Russian nationalism and occasionally xenophobia to define Russian identity. His successors may well define Russian identity by highlighting Russia's imperial past and its domination over its neighbors, even as they reject communist ideology. In the view of the experts, Central Asian, I don't want to read through this, you guys. It's just too long. You read it through it yourself. Besides, that wasn't even the right page anyways. Where am I? Well, no wonder that was so weird. Climate change and its implications. Policies regarding climate change are likely to feature significantly in multilateral relations, and the United States in particularly is likely to face significant bilateral pressure to change its domestic environmental policies and to be a leader in global environmental efforts. Has this not happened? There is a strong consensus in the scientific community that the greenhouse effect is real and that average surface temperatures have risen over the last century, but uncertainty exists about causation and possible remedies. Not anymore. Now they pretty much have said for sure it's our fault and there's no change in it except for by giving all of our money to the government and living in, prison cells. But back then in 2004, they were saying, it seems like it's probably real, but there's uncertainty about what causes it. Anyways, experts in an NIC-sponsored conference judged that concerns about greenhouse gases, of which China and India are large producers, will increase steadily through 2020. There are likely to be numerous weather-related events that, correctly or not, will be linked to global warming. Bam! Did you hear it? If I know the language of this stuff is boring you guys, and then you'll see me put together, some of my videos that I'll put out or other conspiracy guys, and we'll take like a short clip of something and show you how crazy it is that this is all really an agenda and how we're all just being played. But you have to be able to see the writing in its natural form here and just see how the truth is put right out in front of your eyes. There are likely to be numerous weather-related events that, correctly or not, will be linked to global warming. And this is just a prediction. I'm not saying they were saying, we're going to create fake crises and we're going to create fake weather events and blame it on global warming, which isn't real. They're literally saying, there's going to be this push from all these different, governments to make more sustainable, global warming centric legislation and rules and, agendas. They knew that there was going to be this push for that because they were the ones pushing it. So they knew that as that would happen, that there would be more natural disasters like there always are. And as they say right here, correctly or not, they will be linked to global warming. Even if they're not linked to global warming, they'll be linked to it. Any of these events could lead to widespread calls for the United States, as the largest producer of greenhouse gases, to take dramatic steps to reduce its consumption of fossil fuels. Okay, so essentially all this is really saying is that there will be false flags and that the media will, and that they themselves them and the experts and the people here at the National Intelligence Council and the World Economic Forum and Bill Gates and all these other NGOs and all these other experts that are actually running the world behind the scenes that you don't vote for. They're the ones that push out these agendas, right? And that essentially force governments to coalesce to their agendas. And they're just saying, so it's just funny because it's like they're not promoting a conspiracy per se. They're not saying that we will hijack. Well, I guess they are saying that they will hijack natural disasters and claim that they're global warming. That is exactly what they're saying. But do you see how it's like, well, okay. Do you just see how this has come to pass, you guys? I'm sorry. I'm struggling tonight. Policymakers will face a dilemma. An environmental regime based solely on economic incentives will probably not produce needed technological advances because firms will be hesitant to invest in research when there is great uncertainty about potential profits. And this is happening. On the other hand, a regime based on government regulation will tend to be costly and inflexible. The numerous obstacles to multilateral action include resistance from OPEC countries that depend on fossil fuel revenues, the developing world's view that climate change is a problem created by the industrial world and one that they cannot address given their economic constraints, and the need for significant technological innovation to maximize energy efficiency. Man, this is just some heavy reading. Again, hope you guys are downloading this for yourself. Pay extra close attention when you're reading through this yourself to all this global warming stuff. Understand that this is as the agenda was just being rolled out. If I have the energy for it and we do finish through my thing I put together tonight, we're on page 80 now, just skipping through these things. I really do want to get to this second report right here on the right side of your screen, 2008. Because it gets even more into this, but I don't know if it's going to happen at this rate. My jumbled mind, my fumbling mouth, and all of this information. But I'm going to keep going for it, you guys. That was page 80. Let's move on to page 79. Identity politics. Part of the pressure on governance will come from new forms of identity politics centered on religious convictions and ethnic affiliation. Over the next 15 years, religious identity is likely to become an increasingly important factor in how people define themselves. The trend toward identity politics is, and think of what's happened in that regard, is linked to increased mobility, growing diversity of hostile groups within states, and the diffusion of modern communications technologies. The primacy of ethnic and religious identities will provide followers with a ready-made community that serves as a social safety net. They already commented on this. Essentially, they are saying, well, they say it right here. For example, Christianity, Buddhism, and other religions and practices are spreading in such countries as China, as Marxism declines. And the proportion of evangelical converts in traditionally heavy Catholic Latin America is rising. By 2020, China and Nigeria will have some of the largest Christian communities in the world. Really wonder if that's true. I don't know about that. A shift that will reshape the traditionally Western-based Christian institutions, giving them more of an African or Asian, or more broadly, a developing world face. Many religious adherents, whether Hindu nationalists, Christian evangelicals in Latin America, Jewish fundamentalists in Israel, or Muslim radicals, are becoming activists. They have a worldview that advocates change of society, a tendency toward making sharp distinctions between good and evil, and a religious belief system that connects local conflicts to a larger struggle. Well, I'm guilty of that. That's what we're doing here. Number of religious adherents. Hey, look at that. Christians, my boys, number one. Always going to be number one, baby. And the Bible will always be that best-selling book. So anyway, such religious-based movements have been common in times of social and political turmoil in the past and have oftentimes been a force for positive change. For example, scholars see this growth of evangelism in Latin America as providing the uprooted, racially disadvantaged, and often poorest groups, including women, with a social network that would otherwise be lacking, providing members with skills that they need to survive in rapidly developing society, or helping to promote the development of a civil society in the region. At the same time, the desire by activist groups to change society often leads to more social and political turmoil, some of it violent. And of course, and they're probably going to go on to, and they go on to radical Islam here. Again, the time that this came out, and honestly, it is probably the most pressing threat physically in the world. I mean, Christian extremists run YouTube channels like this one, but we're not going to go cut your head off. So, however, things have really kind of calmed down. I'm choosing to skip through this now for time. I'm aware of where I'm at. I'm aware of what time it is, and not doing good here, you guys. Here is another scenario. One thing that I will mention going through that Islamic part that I just skipped through is they were talking about how, what was it? Al-Qaeda would most likely dissolve, and that there would, or be defeated, and that there would be new Islamic extremist groups that would come up. And it didn't mention ISIS. ISIS wasn't the thing in the news yet, but pretty much defined what ISIS was. And reading through it, I don't want to go look for it now, just because I think you guys understand why at this point. I don't got the time for it, but I've told you to download them, so look into it yourself and you'll see. I think what happened with ISIS is clearly outlined in these potential predictions. Still talking weapons of mass destruction, no man's land. Okay, here's something I wanted to really show you guys. Man, I wish I could make it bigger. I can't make it any bigger. How can I show you? Because this actually references a microchip being put in India. You know what? I hate to do it, you guys. I have to, you know what? So check out this. Here's another cool thing that I made. Pertains exactly to what we're talking about. Event 201, Cladex, now introducing the National Intelligence Council's scenarios of a pandemic. I can't think of a better video to play really quick while I figure out how to read this to you guys than doing this.
The outcome of the CAPS pandemic in Event 201 was catastrophic. 65 million people died in the first 18 months. The outbreak was small at first and initially seemed controllable, but then it started spreading in densely crowded and impoverished neighborhoods of megacities. From that point on, the spread of the disease was explosive. Within 6 months, cases were occurring in nearly every country. The global economy was in a free fall. The GDP down 11%. Stock markets around the world plummeted between 20 and 40% and headed into a downward cycle of fear and low expectation. Businesses were not borrowing, banks were not lending. Everyone was just hoping to hunker down and weather the storm. Economists say the economic turmoil caused by such a pandemic will last for years, perhaps a decade. The societal impacts, the loss of faith in government, the distrust of news, and the breakdown of social cohesion could last even longer. We have to ask, did this need to be so bad? Are there things we could have done in the 5 to 10 years leading up to the pandemic that would have lessened the catastrophic consequences? We believe the answer is yes. So, are we as a global community now finally ready to do the hard work needed to prepare for the next pandemic?
Entire planet Earth, mostly to totally destroy these nations. And for the American people, here's the big one, okay, because get ready for it. It's going to be, the ruling establishment has a lot of, they will stop at nothing to complete their toolkit of control. Right? So one of the things that has been missing from the toolkit of total control has been quarantines and curfews, right? So now, welcome to the new world in America, where you will be able to get on a bus, to go through a subway station. If you think that the procedures at the TSA are onerous and a little bit excessive, right? Guess this is coming to a bus depot near you. The point is to get hundreds of thousands of people infected with it and create the next phase of control. Now, one of the things I'd like to show to back up my my claims here. Here's a document from the Rockefeller Foundation. Rockefeller Foundation, right there. You can zoom in on that, where my finger is. It's called Scenarios for the Future of Development and International Development, the Rockefeller Foundation. All right. Okay. Let's take a look at what they're saying here. This is something like a 50, 60-page document. I'd like you to go to page 18, if you can look at this up on the internet, but I'll read it off to you. It's called Lockstep. Lockstep.
These epidemic events are getting more and more disruptive to health and to economy. And the reason we called it Event 201 is we knew eventually one of these days, one of those events would be the big one. And that big one would really challenge our capacity to respond. And to respond to the big one, we do need to have all hands on deck.
With enough money and political will, anything is possible. Let's get going on this now.
Thank you both for this extremely important discussion. Our U.S. affiliate has just released polling results on public expectations for a vaccine. A majority of Americans expect a vaccine to be available within 2 months, and 65% of those polled are eager to take the vaccine, even if it's experimental. In related news, a significant demand for personal protective equipment like N95 masks and gloves are on the rise due to the pandemic. However, globally, hospitals are running low. Additionally, other critical medical supplies such as saline and antibiotics are dwindling. Countries and companies are reportedly stockpiling supplies, disrupting healthcare supply chains, causing dangerous shortages in many parts of the world.
They call it a scenario. These are scenario narratives, and they speak about it in the past tense. So they put out this scenario, Lockstep. A world of tighter, top-down government control and more authoritarian leadership with limited innovation and growing citizen pushback. In 2012, the pandemic that the world had been anticipating for years, nobody was anticipating a pandemic, finally hit. Even the most pandemic-prepared nations were quickly overwhelmed when the virus streaked around the world, infecting nearly 20% of the global population and killing 8 million in just 7 months, the majority of them healthy young adults. The pandemic also had a deadly effect on economies. You can see the agenda, just naked, raw, naked control agenda written down, and it's anybody's guess how this becomes effectuated in real life. So whether this is written specifically as marching orders or whether people take it upon themselves in the intelligence networks to say, okay, well, this has been produced, so this is the plan here. But these narratives have to be written in advance because the intelligence agencies don't know how to do these narratives. They need help. So these think tanks, they come up with these like Rand Corporation, Rockefeller Foundation. These are think tanks of death. They're not the think tanks. They're not there to find great ways to help people. Right?
It began in healthy-looking pigs, months, perhaps years ago. A new coronavirus spread silently within herds. Gradually, farmers started getting sick. Infected people got a respiratory illness with symptoms ranging from mild flu-like signs to severe pneumonia. The sickest required intensive care. Many died. Experts agree, unless it is quickly controlled, it could lead to a severe pandemic, an outbreak that circles the globe and affects people everywhere.
The mission of the Pandemic Emergency Board is to provide recommendations to deal with the major global challenges arising in response to an unfolding pandemic. The board is comprised of highly experienced leaders from business, public health, and civil society.
We could be looking at double the number of cases in 1 week and 16 times as many in a month if we are not able to stop the spread. That would be on the order of 500,000 cases, and it would continue to rise exponentially. In 3 months, we could be approaching 10 million cases.
We're at the start of what's looking like it will be a severe pandemic. And there are problems emerging that can only be solved by global business and governments working together.
Okay, the pandemic also had a deadly effect on economics. International mobility of both people and goods screeched to a halt, right? Which is what they want. They want a completely isolated world, right? Debilitating industries like tourism and breaking global supply chains. Well, of course they want tourism. They want you stopped because they're not in the tourism business, and they want you at home in your house in front of the TV, and they got you.
Right now, our best defense has been social distancing. No handshaking, staying home when you're sick, washing your hands frequently.
Guys, go to Netflix. This movie was made in 2018. Go to season 1, episode 10, okay? And go to 53 minutes. I'm gonna play it for you guys. Remember, this was made 2 years ago.
자세한 건 좀 더 조사를 해봐야겠지만 변종된 코로나 바이러스입니다. 코로나면 혹시 메르스? 메르스, 사스, 감기 모두 동일한 바이러스의 유전 정보를 지닌 떼밀기로 보면 돼요. 코로나는 호흡기 질환을 일으키는 대표적인 바이러스. 2015년 메르스 사태 때 사망률이 20%가 넘었죠. 근데 20%는 무기류세일 정도는 아니지 않아요? 아까도 말했다시피 이건 변종된 바이러스예요. 누군가 인위적으로 사망률을 90%에 육박하도록 올린 것으로 보입니다. 90%요? 그보다 더 심각한 건 코로나 바이러스는 평균 2일에서 14일 이상 목기를 거치지만 이건 노출되면 단 5분 내에 폐를 직접 인위적으로 변종을 했어요.
Okay, and we continue.
그럼 치료제는요? 아직은 시중에 풀린 치료제나 백신은 없습니다. 개발 까다롭거든요. 다만 코르스 백신? 메르스 사태 후에 백신 개발에 대규모 투자를 한 삼국제약에서 곧 특허 출하를 가능성이 있대. 삼국제약이라면 이 근처에 있는
Listen to this. Listen to this.
코르스? 어디서 들어본 것 같은데?
Watch this.
인위적으로 조작된 바이러스? 사망률은?
90%.
그럼 생각 테러를 준비하는 거야.
This movie was made in 2018.
Saw a virus. I think some kind of disease.
A virus? Like what? Like SARS?
I don't know. All I know is that it's highly infectious. It may be fatal. Right now, we could all be infected. If we take this outside, we risk the whole town.
Johnny, how big is this gonna get?
I don't know. We just have to do everything we can to stop this, starting right now, Walt.
He's right. All right, here's what's gonna happen. We need to make sure that everybody that's inside stays inside. I'm gonna get a few deputies on it. We'll call it a lockdown.
Lockdown?
Well, until I come up with something better.
Walt, no. No, you cannot lock the school doors with...
This is for your family's safety.
Maybe we should wear masks. What difference does it make? According to you, we've already been exposed. Let's get one thing straight, Mr. Smith. I'm responding to political pressure. I'm going to swab the inside of your mouth with this little Q-tip. Damn efficient airborne transmission. Blood tests and swabs aren't telling us much. We know it acts like a virus. It causes high fever and respiratory distress. Tracking and treating a mysterious outbreak like this would take the CDC months.
China. Isn't that where flu viruses come from?
Yeah. A lot of viruses come from there.
International flight to China?
That's no coincidence. Whatever it is, it originated in China.
How long is it going to take?
Well, it took 34 days to isolate the coronavirus that caused SARS, and that's fast.
I'm authorizing a quarantine on everyone who's come in contact with a symptomatic person.
There's got to be something I can do.
And the enzyme this virus leaks when they reduce
So the chloroquine did this. So the chloroquine.
The chloroquine.
This is it. This is your virus.
I'm sorry, but there's no cure for that. Chloroquine, that's an anti-malarial drug.
No. Listen, it suppresses the enzymes. What happened?
We started everyone on chloroquine, stopped the thing dead in its tracks. Now, the CDC would have figured it out eventually, but not in time.
Okay, so I love how they talk about it in the past tense in 2010. Right? The pandemic blanketed the planet, though disproportionate numbers in Africa died. Southeast Asia and Central America, where the virus spread like wildfire.
It sounds like the opening monologue of a disaster movie, right?
Exactly.
Over the opening credits as they show the disaster.
Sure. And they made it real.
They have something like this, a narration like this over the credits that sets you up.
Now listen to, here's the good stuff now. But even in developed countries, containment was a challenge. Now here's this one. I love this one. The United States' initial policy of strongly discouraging, in quotation marks, strongly discouraging citizens from flying proved deadly in its leniency. So they're saying, that
no, keep going. Read it.
Proved deadly in its leniency. So they should have been tougher, right? Accelerating the spread of the virus, not just within the United States, but across borders. However, a few countries did fare better. China in particular. The Chinese government's quick imposition and enforcement of mandatory quarantine for all citizens, as well as its instant and near hermetic sealing off of all borders, saved millions of lives, stopping the spread of virus far earlier than in other countries. So the message is here is we have to look towards the Chinese, the oppressive totalitarian Chinese regime as an example of what we need to be doing here.
Countries are reacting in different ways as to how best to manage the overwhelming amounts of dis and misinformation circulating over the internet. In some cases, limited internet shutdowns are being implemented to quell panic.
We're at a moment where the social media platforms have to step forward and recognize the moment to assert that they're a technology platform and not a broadcaster is over. They in fact have to be a participant in broadcasting accurate information and partnering with the scientific and health communities to counterweight, if not flood the zone of accurate information, because to try to put the genie back in the bottle of the misinformation and disinformation is nigh impossible.
One thing we haven't spoken about, and I'm wondering whether it's time to talk about this, is a step up from the part of the governments on enforcement actions against fake news.
This is very interesting. This is continue on.
Okay. China's government was not the only one that took extreme measures to protect its citizens from risk and exposure. During the pandemic, national leaders around the world flexed their muscles, flexed their authority, and imposed airtight rules and restrictions. You can see the agenda.
Go.
Okay. From the mandatory wearing of face masks to body temperature checks at the entries to communal spaces, like
it'll be at the subway.
Yeah,
well, is that what you're saying? We'll be going through this in the subway, to get on buses and the subway, things like that.
And what this means though is don't think about having a cigarette, a joint on you, or basically you can't. This is a dragnet for everything. So. If in order for you
in other words, just like with stop and frisk, this is the ultimate stop and frisk.
And even supermarkets, they want body checks at supermarkets, okay? So basically what they're saying is they're building a system where every move you make, you gotta go through them.
How much control of information should there be? And by whom? And how can false information be effectively challenged? And what if that false information is coming from companies or from governments?
It was 10 years ago, just after the government instituted the whole isolation policy. we began hearing reports of a mass epidemic, some unknown disease sweeping the country. The details were vague at first, nothing on the cause or transmission of the disease, only that it was highly contagious, and in most cases, fatal. Before the general public even had time to react, the government declared a state of emergency and ordered a mandatory vaccination program for our protection, they said. As it turns out, that was the beginning of our nightmare. The disease was a complete government fabrication, and the supposed vaccine they were injecting into everyone, in reality, it was a cyber virus.
Okay. Rage. I'm sorry, man. Hey, you know what? Rage Against the Machine is a good name for you, man, because you were just raging at me because you were ready to get back into the action. But that one of my favorite satanic secular bands, Rage Against the Machine, communist, but come on, Bulls on Parade. Are you serious? Awesome. Anyways, let's throw that one up there. Yeah, so I am going to get back into the action, you guys. I did need to take that little break. Plus, I thought that video was pertinent to what we're talking about tonight. We're looking at this, think tank's memo from 2004 and 2008 regarding their predictions for the year 2020 and 2025. And they're talking a bunch about pandemics. So I felt like it was appropriate to show that video that I know some of you guys have seen before, but a lot of you guys haven't seen before. And so what you just saw, Harry Vox, say what you will about him. I'm not a big Harry Vox fan myself, but he's right about that Operation Lockstep, Event 201. Everything that we've just been through with the pandemic, you guys, I'd assume that a lot of viewers of this are already familiar with these pre-existing scenarios that these think tanks and NGOs come out with. And if this is new to you, then sorry for blowing your mind like that. And so, yeah, if you're just joining tonight, I've been presenting you guys with a whole new one that you might not have heard of before, from the National Intelligence Council. We're going to get back into it right now. Here we go. But what I needed to do was pull up this. I needed to pull this up on a separate thing for me so I could read it because the text was too small. So this is what we have here. You guys are looking at these phones, right? This is a continuation, by the way, of our, you got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. Give me, come on, Tim. You can do better than this. It's a continuation of looking into this, the thing you see on the top right of your screen right now, which I actually can't see because I got this pulled up. It's because I got, man, it's because, yeah, mapping the global future is where we left off. Okay. And, but I liked this view more for you guys. All right. And this was written and published in 2004. It's about the year 2020. What you're looking at right now, these phones, it says here, fictional scenario, cycle of fear. This scenario explores what might happen if proliferation concerns increase to the point that large-scale intrusive security measures were taken. In such a world, proliferators, such as illegal arms merchants, might find it increasingly hard to operate. But at the same time, with the spread of WMD, weapons of mass destruction, more countries might want to arm themselves for their own protection. This scenario is depicted in a series of text message exchanges between two arms dealers. And they always do this with these scenarios. It's cringy, honestly. But they come up with these like fictional, settings and characters that are penning these scenarios, right? I've been skipping through them because we had too much to go through. Maybe I'll get back into this another time. If I do this on this channel all the time. Usually the videos that you'll see, if you like this type of content, I usually call this series This Comes Next. If you look through my channel, the thumbnail always has Klaus Schwab on there and a picture of the World Economic Forum's transformation map. But I didn't put that as this thumbnail. But my point is that as we just read through these things directly, I'm giving you guys a lot of my opinion, but I don't want there to be any accusations that I'm making any of this stuff up. So we're just reading it right from them. And yeah, these scenarios, as whenever they publish these things, it's real corny the way, that's what I was trying to say. It's real corny the way that they present it, because they feel like they have to somehow make it a little bit entertaining. I showed you before how like they use that terrible font to make it look like you were reading in the diary of a president. And well, we'll get into more of that, but in this case, they used cell phones. Okay, and this is the text message exchange, a fictional text message exchange around the year 2020 between two illegal arms dealers. Okay, sorry for butchering that, you guys. All right, I'm just going to read through it, starting with the green phone. Are you there? I got to use different voices so that you guys can distinguish between the characters here. So green phone will be this guy. Are you there? Are you there? He'll be like this guy. Are you there? Are you there? Yeah, he'll be like the criminal voice. Are you there? And then the yellow phone, I'm going to turn him into, I got to give him an accent. He'll be like a cowboy guy. Marco contacted me already. Okay, that's how I'll do it. All right, here we go. Are you there? Marco contacted me already. It's going to be difficult. How? In procuring it? No, moving it. Too many eyes on me. Here it says, and are finding conducting businesses to be increasingly difficult. Okay. You're kidding. You're in one of the poorest countries. You're telling me Dubai was so civilized, but now it's impossible to operate there. Maybe I chose a weird accent for this guy if he's been in Dubai, but let's keep going. Those terrorists are ruining our business. That series of attacks spooked everybody, not just the Americans. How do you know you didn't help the terrorists? Well, I can't know for certain, but I think my ultimate client's different. Now I'm giving him a cowboy accent too. All right, so dealer A, green phone, criminal guy, seems to think he is working for a country. The material he is interested in could be nuclear technology. However, he intimates that terrorists are also interested in doing business with him. Cowboy guy. Yeah, I know you're committed. I'm in it for the money. Doesn't matter too much who pays, just so long as they do. I want my people in faith to be respected. The bomb's important. And to get back at the Crusaders, well, that too. Again with the cowboy thing. But this is actually like, I think this is supposed to be like a terrorist guy, but I can't do that accent. Anyways, that too. But the Yanks are doing us a favor. Their military threats got my client's attention. He can't wait now for things to happen. The more talk of military action, the better. The more talk of military action, the better, I say. And I have other buyers who are interested. Let's say more shady types. Okay, so dealer B, the cowboy, warns that the tide of international public opinion may be turning in favor of stronger counter-proliferation because of the terrorist attacks. Oh, don't be so sure. America's got a lot of support because of the terrorists. People also leery of attacks, especially BW. Yeah, they really got the superpower on the run, even when it isn't weapons of mass destruction. They think it is. Regular hoof and mouth, I heard. Hard to tell the difference at first. Yeah, went overboard. Still, I worry. Lots of people sympathize, worry, even in the Muslim world. America also had its share of the real thing. A big hit happened before hoof and mouth. That new Patriot Act went way beyond anything imagined after 9/11. Both dealers indicate that they are increasingly worried about new devices that can track them. I worry about the chip. Okay, so Green Phone is now saying he worries about the chip in the year 2020. You got one embedded in you? Duh. Well, better not, but I don't believe what those guys claim about protecting privacy. Too much has happened. Martial law, talk of preemption, special measures. Those operations last year wrapped up a big chain. You can't trust the Americans, even though this guy sounds like a quintessential American. And they have friends in the world who help them, but maybe not as many as they think, if you know what I mean. So see, dealer A in green looks on the bright side. With the world slipping into a recession because of the terrorist attacks and the severe clampdown, he thinks he can get legitimate business to look the other way. And by the way, guys, I get how terrible these accents are and how inappropriate they are for the roles that they're playing. I mean, seriously, this cowboy guy is an arms dealer and apparently concerned about protecting his faith. You know, these are clearly Muslim extremists that are being depicted here. But I've already started, so now I got to stick with what I did here. Well, anyways, the bad guys, well, they're both bad guys, but the criminal voice guy and the green phone says, yeah, but that's not bad for business. Talking about working together, you know, with governments. Which business? I've got several to tend to. You're right. Lots of legits going belly up. What happened to globalization? Ha, ha, ha. Dealer A in green goes back to explaining why the increased terrorist attacks have also increased government interest in weapons of mass destruction programs. Lots of countries want an insurance policy against Big Brother. Big Brother and one of the smaller fry. What do you mean? My client's scared. And then it says S ... So it's supposed to say shitless. Pardon my French. But I do find it funny that they're using curse words in this report. But they're doing so to try to like, this is the type of way that criminals would talk. You know what I mean? But my client's scared S word about the terrorists and their capabilities. Yeah, some have turned into mini states, or they run them, says the green phone. Now, I don't know if you guys can read this on the screen, and I feel like I've done it a terrible injustice. But just to recap, what we got here is two arms dealers that are trying to negotiate some kind of trade of an illegal contraband, you know, whether that's, I guess in this case, weapons, or they're implying it could be weapons of mass destruction, and that could include like chemicals or anything really, but something that the government, the American government, presumably is clamping down on. And they have all this in this scenario. This government that they're conspiring against has a lot of technological advancements regarding like surveillance, right? And that's why this guy with the green phone is like, I'm worried about the chip. He literally says that, right? That's what they put out in 2004, that by 2020, in one scenario, perhaps the arms dealer guy would be concerned about the rollout of a chip, a microchip, right? And the guy's like, did you get one embedded into you yet? And he's like, no, not yet. So that's the whole point of this scenario, is that, you know, these surveillance biotech devices have been rolled out, and how that will interfere with organized crime. That's the purpose of this whole little thing that they're doing here. Of course, what I'm taking from it is just the, you know, time frame of the chip, something that I've really highlighted a lot on this channel. But let's just finish this off. Conversation breaks off at this point. Okay, so after Cowboy Boy, one of the arms dealers says, you know, that's, yeah, some of them have turned into mini states. And then he says, or they run them, implying that in this scenario, and with the surveillance state, with Big Brother taking over everything, this is like the 1984 scenario, right? And everything is monitored by surveillance tech, you know. And he's saying, well, these criminals are now running, you know, mini states, ha ha ha. And it's because, you know, through the internet, like, although governments might be able to use, you know, this new technology and the Internet of Things to clamp down on society, you know, and to surveil everybody. Well, at that same time, criminals and with bad intentions that have capabilities in programming and hackers and stuff like that will have been able to also take over and create governance and run some of these mini states, you know, and everything is able to be corrupted, blah, blah, blah. But a month later, it says dealer A, who's now in black, again talks to dealer B in blue. Marco, the in-between mentioned in the last month's conversation, has changed aliases and is now known as Sayed, or I don't know how to pronounce that. Let's call him Steve, which may or may not be his real name. The dealer's quip about there being no relation is an obvious inside joke. And again, with the corny scenarios, like they're inventing inside jokes between these fictional characters. But anyways, the first dealer also reverts to his theme that the downturn in the world economy has been a boon to the illegal business. Legitimate businesses are now turning a blind eye and selling dual-use technology even when they have doubts about the end user. Dealers have also changed devices, which are shown now in new colors. And this is also, trying to imply the threat of, as the internet, again, this is 2004. So they're looking into the future, and they're saying, as people have these mobile devices and everybody's connected online and all that, then you're going to be able to sell what they call dual use technology, because some of these technologies that they're envisioning, which now really exist and did exist then, could be used for both good and bad. And so that there will actually be organized crime in providing these technological, it's real vague and ambiguous in this scenario, but they're implying that there could be an opportunity for organized crime to sell and to trade this type of technology for bad purposes. So anyways, they've changed their devices, because they're worried about being tracked because of their chips and blah, blah, blah. He says, Steve contacted you? Because I won't say his name. Yeah, no relation to Marco, of course. And that's by the way, that's the entirety of the inside joke that they felt the need to tell us about. The obvious inside joke. It's over now. It wasn't funny. Yeah, no relation to Marco, of course. Anyways, this recession. Okay, he's the bad guy. This recession's helping. What do you mean? Makes the corporate world an easy target. Witting or unwitting? I'd say witting, but with plausible deniability. You got the stuff through? Okay, so the corporate world, according to this scenario of Big Brother taking over, would be that the corporate world would be an easy witting target to participate in organized crime because they would have plausible deniability, again, because with these hackers and with their concerns about, everything being able to be, or with the ability of interconnectedness, internet, for these different crime syndicates to be able to communicate and set up things via the internet and stuff, that would create plausible deniability when they work in conjunction with, corporations to do illegal activities. Kind of like what's similar to what happens right now all the time, by way of spamming and all that illegal marketing that goes on. But I'm ranting too much, you guys. I really wanted you, the only real reason I even actually wanted to read this page was just because I thought it was interesting that he asked him if he got the chip yet. And the guy was like, no, I haven't had the chip embedded into me yet. Again, whatever. It's, oh, look it. And I was reading through mine, but this is what I was going through here. That's why the phone's turned black. You guys, I'm such an amateur. So that was that scenario. It implied the coming chip, whatever. Let's just keep going through here. I think, was that the last thing I had for that one? Yes. Chip thing. That's what I wrote down in my little notes here. I don't know how much you got. I feel like that was kind of a flop there, but I hope that you didn't miss the main point. Not only the chip, but just the scenario that's being proposed here of one possible world that, the National Intelligence Council could envision for the year 2020 would be one where the world, where at least America, again, this is an American thing, where the nation would be replete with all of these high-tech surveillance, technologies and devices, including nanotech and biotech, as we read about earlier, including, the chips, like were mentioned right here. And of course, they're tying it into how that would interact with, illegal incoming contraband and, that kind of stuff. But I'm not worried about that. The devil's in the details, as they say, right? And in the middle of this, you have an admission of, the chip technology, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot more to this that I wanted to read, but I'm just not going to. Again, the first link that I have in my description page, or on the description to this channel, I mean to say, is to this report, Mapping the Global Future. So go ahead and click it right now, download it, read it on your own time. That's the end of that one. And then I do have on here, you guys, this whole second report. Now, this is the thing that's happened, as happens every single live stream. I rant and I show things to you guys and I play videos and I lose my track of thought. This type of thing happens. We're at 2 hours right now. I got to decide if I want to go through this now or maybe show you guys another time. I feel like there is one thing out of this report that I need to show you now. I already showed you page 75, where it lays out their prediction for a pandemic. That's how we started this live stream. If you joined since we started, I would suggest you go back to it. I'm not going to read it again. 47. Man, a lot of information here tonight, you guys. But where are we? Yeah, potential emergence of a global pandemic. We went through this, and it talks about how the emergence of a novel, highly transmissible and virulent human respiratory illness for which there is no adequate countermeasures could initiate a global pandemic. In 2008, they were saying that this was a possibility for the year 2025. We read through this at the beginning. It points out how it would likely start in China, have something to do with an animal to human transmission, just like we heard happen, that no one would notice it for a while and it would go, unnoticed. And in that time, that people that had it would go traveling abroad and would carry the virus to different continents, which again is everything we experienced through this pandemic, laid out right here on page 75 of the Global Trends 2025 report from the National Intelligence Council. The subtitle for this report is A Transformed World. Okay, that's the second link that you're going to find in the description of this. And I just recommend for you to just download both of those, read them on your own time. That way you don't have to complain to me about what a bad host I am when it comes to doing live streams. I'm just not built in a way that's good for narrating a lot of stuff like this. I mean, I'm way too scatterbrained of a person. But anybody that subscribes to this channel has some level of appreciation for the content that we're putting out. I really think I thrive in making movies. But I've got to do these live streams too, because there's just too much information out there for me to even cover in movies that it takes me forever to make. And this just is what it is. So it's a slow growing channel. Not everybody is down with my style or can handle the way I struggle to communicate sometimes. But once I'll say it again, I appreciate those of you that do. And maybe some of you guys are better at sharing stuff than I am. So that's why I'm going to start putting out these links in my descriptions more often. So now please, you download it, you find what you can. Some of you guys are smarter than me. You'll probably come up with stuff I didn't, and just continue to share this out there. It's important, I think, for people to understand and see this kind of information, because as these agendas continue to roll out, and nowadays everybody just attributes it to the United Nations and to Agenda 2030. You look back at some stuff like this, right, that wasn't affiliated with those particular NGOs, and it helps you to understand that, kind of just the way that the government works in cooperation with these NGOs, which as far as I'm concerned are the part of the government, even though their name would say otherwise, right? And the way that these think tanks influence the agendas and the legislation that governments end up rolling out. It's important. And there's so much there are many other reports just like these two that I'm showing you guys right now. I mean, this is just skimming the surface. I could do shows like this all the time if I had the time, which I don't. But here's a little trick for you if you want to research. Go to Google. You can do this on YouTube as well, by the way. Type in anything you want to research, okay? And at the end of it, type the word before, comma, and then put a year. So like this. Let's say I wanted to research what the NIC was putting out, or NIC reports before the year 2013. If I type this into Google, I'll do it right here. NIC trend report. I don't even know if that's what they call it. And then I say before 2013. All right, I'm just going to put this on the screen to just show you guys a little trick real quick. Before, comma, 2013. I put in NIC trend report, but you can put in anything you want there. into Google or into YouTube. And what it'll do is it'll automatically filter the results to show you everything that was published to the internet before the year that you put. Now, this is really important these days because as censorship has gone out of control, okay, as so much of the information that my subscribers, myself, and that we know to be legitimate, that has informed us of this new world order that has existed online for time immemorial, that you were able to go look up and show people and verify. Now you can't look up anymore. It's really interesting because if you use this little trick, the before comma date, you'll notice yourself, if you start researching conspiracy theories, that a lot of links will come up that if you try to click, you'll get the old 404 no longer available. But the reason that this trick is good is because this way, things started getting really bad around the time of the pandemic. And so when it comes to, some of this more forbidden information, if you use this trick before I would say 2019, 2020, a lot of that stuff that's been deleted, you'll be able to search for a lot easier, because this way you can kind of circumvent all of the crap that they started pushing out and pushing to the top of search results around that time, and kind of view the search engines in the way it used to be before all this happened. So there you go. Yeah, so some people are leaving. Goodbye, you guys that are leaving. I love you guys. I'm going to be going pretty soon too, but not yet. So keep hanging out with me, you guys that want to. But yeah, DK, Spiracy, whoever's saying goodbye, love you guys. So we're gonna do one more quick little thing. I want to read you one page out of this Global Trends 2025 report, but I've made the decision right now. It's something we're going to come back to. And I even though I kind of struggled with tonight's live stream in terms of talking, I'm satisfied with kind of the setup I got here. So moving forward.
Babe, no, you didn't.
Oh, sucks. See, Amber's always trying to encourage me.
No, seriously though.
I don't know, babe. I've just been feeling so darn low about myself. And it's just been a little bit of a mess. And I had to get up earlier and go take a break because I was struggling to talk so much. And I had to go smoke a cigarette just to be straight with you guys. As you guys know, I'm a smoker, and that made me feel a lot better. And then I was like, okay, I can do this. But whenever I never know before I go live if I'm going to be able to talk clearly and concisely like I'm sometimes able to do.
You're your own worst critic.
Yeah. Well, that's why I married her, guys. Do you want to say hi to these guys real quick?
I've been chatting with them.
Okay. How about this? I'm going to show one last thing. We're going to read one thing out of this last report, and then you come say hi to them, and then I say goodbye to them. How's that sound to you guys? I mean, people are still hanging out, so you're right. I probably am too hard on myself. I know that this is good information. I know that. The best thing is that was the point I was trying to make before I scatterbrained away. I put these links in the description. That's what I intend to keep doing. That's a perfect solution. You guys that can't stand the way I'm doing this, just read it yourself. I'm gonna make that easy for you guys. I want this channel to not only be, an outlet for me to speak my mind and all that, but maybe I could just, now that I got, a fair amount of subscribers, I'll just start linking more information. That's something I really want to do for you guys. Link more information so you can directly look it up yourself, and then you could either read it along with me, look at it on your own time, whatever. I don't care. Maybe and in the future I can do that with my documentaries as well. It's a lot of work, but I feel like that's important, and I really like the idea. So that's what I'm going to do. Going to read you one more thing out of here. Love you guys. Then Amber's going to come back. So do not leave yet, you guys. The average live stream for Fallen World Films tends to be about 2.5 hours. So we're right on track here at 2:08. Stick around. I'm not going anywhere, but I do got to hit you with one of these, and we're going to be right back.
I will never forget the first time I watched Tales from the Fallen World with Tim and Amber. It was, for me, a life-changing experience. Now, I'm not easily persuaded by all that hocus-pocus, mambo-jumbo, sensational headlines, and conspiracy theory. I am simply a man who calls it like I see it. But as a world-class celebrity, I have unfortunately seen more than I care to admit. Human clones. The Illuminati. The Mark of the Beast. I'm sorry to inform you that these things exist. Now, I don't regard myself to be wise, but it seems to me that when all of humanity stands in the face of an evil force, we would do well to support the efforts of the brave individuals who stand against it. This is why I support the good work being done at Fallen World Films. So please subscribe, like, and share these videos. Let's help this fine young couple to spread their message. Because if we don't turn this thing around soon, our children will inherit less freedoms than at the Shawshank State Prison. Take it from me, a guy who sounds like Morgan Freeman.
Introducing tolerance tags, the ultimate way to connect with other woke individuals and signal your virtue to the world. Are you tired of constantly having to explain your beliefs and values to others? Wish there was an easier way to identify the like-minded individuals who share your passion for inclusivity and progressivism? Look no further than tolerance tags. These nifty little implantable microchips will connect you with a network of individuals who are just as woke as you are. With just a simple scan, you can instantly identify others who are part of the exclusive club of inclusivity and equality. No more awkward conversations or trying to explain the nuances of your beliefs to others. With tolerance tags, you can signal your virtue to the world and bask in the warm glow of your own righteousness. So what are you waiting for? Join the woke revolution and get your tolerance tag today, because nothing says I'm a good person quite like an implantable microchip in your body.
Okay. I hope you guys enjoy those. Actually, look at DK Spiracy says these are awesome. I'm glad. You know, making those kinds of stupid little fake products is such a relief to me. Like, I really enjoy that. You know, I'm always editing these videos and making my stuff about really important topics. And I always try to, you know, alleviate some of the severity of, you know, how crazy the things are that I cover on this channel by being a little entertaining in the way that I present things. But I've been having a lot of fun lately just making like funny videos. In fact, maybe at the end of the night, I'll show you guys some of the newer ones I made. Subscribers have already seen them, but if you've noticed some of the parodies I've come out with lately, Impractical Joe was one, and They, Them, Live being the other. That's something I might start doing more often when I just need a break from being so serious. And I think it could be good for the channel because it's really funny. I meant to actually put some in tonight's show, but I just ran out of time, which is a usual problem. So this is the last thing I wanted to read you guys tonight. It's really not. Actually, believe it or not, I intended to go through this second report that I'm in right now with you, just like I did the first one. But I should have predicted it would, you know, take as long as it did. I almost feel like the best way to do this would be to pull up my second browser here. Hold on. Can I do that? So this is what I got to do, you guys. Just bear with me a quick second here. Unbelievable. I'm typing right now. Just hold on. National Intelligence Council. It's called Global Trends 2025. What I'm doing right now is I'm going to pull this up on a separate page so I can actually read it. I've been telling you guys that the text is too small for me to read, and it's even worse in this second report. But it's only going to take me a second here. All right, I'm right about there. Don't lose me yet, you guys. Do not go yet, because here we go. And this is the last thing I want to read to you, because while this scenario has not played out, there we go. While this scenario has not played out exactly as it is here, it's actually kind of close in a way, because if you haven't noticed, since the pandemic started, NGOs like the World Economic Forum, like the United Nations, and reaching back, Council on Foreign Relations is one everybody knows about. Here, the National Intelligence Council, and these types of NGOs seem to be a lot more influential in government than they ever were in the past. I'm sure some of you guys have noticed that. And I feel like this particular scenario kind of lays out something that's really happened here. And it all centers around global warming, which is what has really occurred. I told you before, even though we haven't really gotten into this second, even though we haven't really been able to get into this second, what is going on here? I'm having the hardest time, you guys. I'm really sorry. This second report, I told you that the first report was all about weapons of mass destruction. That's what everyone was afraid of. That was the threat. And how in the 2008 report, that kind of transitioned into global warming, because again, 2004 is when it was, when it became public knowledge that there were no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, at least, right? If you remember, or Afghanistan or whatever it was. And so now the nature of the threat moves on to global warming, which was also initiated right around that time. Or at least like really starting to get promoted right around that time. Here we are in 2023. Again, this is the agenda for 2025. And yeah, global warming has become like the main agenda in which all of the governments of the world are expected to rally around to create our new world order, because that's all that these NGOs keep trying to do. Like when you start reading these reports and you go back all the way to the 70s, you'll see that globalization, how many times have we read that tonight? And read through these yourself, and you will get so sick of that word. And you're going to see that, the whole purpose of these things is globalization. And so it's like every single aspect of these reports but these aren't just reports, mind you. These are the leading experts in every field that is associated with whatever they're talking about. And this is, the National Intelligence Council. They work with the United States intelligence. And like, these are the people that make things happen. Okay. And so it's not like these are just some like standard random opinions of, some average Joe down the street. Like these are the people that are in positions of power that can actually affect change and affect and influence legislation and the things that then result in having an effect on us. So yeah. And this global warming thing, right, which now has like taken over. Oh, look, I could do that with this one. Was predicted a long time ago. And one of the scenarios, I think, lays out an interesting future that I think has a lot in common with our actual future. So here we go. Global scenario. Son of a gun. You guys, I keep exiting my screen. Okay. In this fictionalized scenario, a new world emerges in which nation states are not in charge of setting the international agenda. The dispersion of power and authority away from nation states has fostered the growth of subnational and transnational entities, including social and political movements. Growing public concerns about environmental degradation and government inaction come together in this example to empower a network of political activists to wrest control of the issue out of country level out of country level officials and capitals. Kind of like, and it just makes me think of Greta Thunberg or whatever, you know, and these growing public, they rolled out, they've been rolling out, like it's always kids, Greta Thunberg maybe being the most popular of them, but you'll continue to hear these demands, you know, from universities and stuff like that about how the government is not acting fast enough on climate control, right? And essentially what this is presenting here is that social, you know, grassroots organizations that are motivated by activist causes, in this case global warming, will literally take over the governments through NGOs. I got to stop talking and just read. Growing public concerns about environmental degradation and government inaction come together in this example to empower a network of political activists to wrest control of the issue out of country level officials and capitals. Global communications technology enables individuals to affiliate directly with identity driven groups and networks that transcend geographic boundaries. Environmentalism is an issue for which there is a widespread confluence of interest and desires. Okay, here is the scenario. They envision it as if it's a blog post, okay, from some environmental leader, okay? And it's a blog post because it's implied that the governments at this point have been overrun. And so it's, in the other scenarios, it's usually on some kind of White House letterhead or from the, you know, presiding offices of some other country. Well, in this case, it's a blog post because the scenario implies that the government has been overrun by, you know, regular people like you and me, activists for climate change, who were sick of the government's inaction and finally decided to step up and take control of the direction that we go in this society. Anyway, so this is the scenario from FT.com, Financial Times, but it's fake. Politics is not always local. September 14th, 2024. Okay, so fictionally speaking, this is from about a month from now or so. We are in a new era in which governments are no longer king. All of us commentators talked a lot about the end of the Westphalian era. Does that mean like Orwellian, Westphalian? But we never really believed it. Moreover, it was harder to get our arms around the non-state actors than to report on government ministries with their solid granite foundations and columned porticos. Now we have to recognize the new force of these loose networks. Unlike governments, they actually got something done. And that's funny too. Oh, I'm going to stop interjecting. They have shown that they really matter. I'm talking about the new climate change treaty that was recently agreed upon, even before the previous one expired, that instituted stricter carbon emission ceilings and established global programs for renewable energy and new technologies to deal with the increasing water supply problems. Of course, there is no single network, and maybe that is the secret. Not only were there various national groups, but many of the networks responsible for forcing the climate change negotiations collected together professional groups, NGOs, and religious groups across national, class, and cultural divides. One of my more recent videos will get into how these religious groups are being used to push the new religion of the green movement. But I got to not interject. The wide deployment of the next generation internet, ubiquitous computing, Internet of Things would be another way to put that, although done for commercial reasons, greatly facilitated the empowerment of these non-state interest groups. This probability would not have come about without a succession of environmental disasters. The New York hurricane was a trigger, again, fictional, but remember what we read in the previous report from 2004, right? How because of global warming and the fears of global warming, how there would be many natural disasters which would be attributed to global warming, whether or not that was correct. Do you remember that? It came from the same group of, same think tank said that would happen. Well, here in this scenario, they're saying the New York hurricane was a trigger, right, for these environmentalist groups to take over governments. This fictional New York hurricane. Well, believe me, I think you guys already know the Maui. What about that Maui fires thing that just happened in Hawaii? It took like I think 24 hours before they were saying it was connected to global warming. In fact, I didn't prepare this to show you guys, but there was according to Amazon, a best-selling book, literally within 24 hours, of the Maui fires, or whatever that we call that crisis now, that directly attributed it to global warming, and it was promoted on the front page of Amazon. And I made a big Facebook post about it, but I did not post it here. Look it up yourself. I forget what it was called. So anyways, in the fictional scenario, there was a hurricane in New York, which is a trigger for this fictional thing to happen where environmentalists take over. Written in 2008. Again, this is about the year 2025, a prediction from the year 2008. Importantly, the fact that it happened about the time of UNGA, which many of these networks and groups have been scheduled to attend, facilitated the initial coalescence. However, it would not have happened without other events like the cyclone a year earlier that devastated Bangladesh, and the recent Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report showing much higher levels of CO2 despite efforts at cutbacks. A crisis atmosphere prevailed. Indeed, it was one of those moments in history when a new millennium or apocalyptic atmosphere was operating, as if the end of the world was nigh and immediate action was needed. Well, is that not the way that the media promotes this green agenda now? That was a relatively new thing at the time this was published, that the end of the world is at nigh, apocalyptic atmosphere. In the scenario, it was enough to justify this overtake of governments by these NGOs. Anyways, in a sense, we have reached the promised land in which global cooperation is more than a conspiracy among elites, but bubbles up from the grassroots across historic, national, and cultural divides. So this is saying, instead of like the conspiracy theories about there being cooperation between all these elitists, like I say, like this channel defends wholeheartedly with all my documentaries. But again, that is considered a conspiracy even to this day. Well, in this scenario, they're saying that through global warming, there actually would be a relationship and cooperation between all the nations of the world, because they would have this greater common threat, the global warming, in this fictional scenario, according to 2008. Well, let's again fast forward to where we're at now in 2023. This has already happened. We already saw the governments of the world coordinate and cooperate and come together into one homogenous new world order thing through the pandemic. But we also see the same thing happening through the green agenda and through global warming. That is happening. And in fact, the next lockdowns that we have, I wouldn't be surprised if they're related to climate change. But whatever. According to the scenario, according to this fictional blog post, it's more than a conspiracy among elites, but bubbles up from the grassroots across historic, national, and cultural divides. We had hoped for this with the European Union, but never achieved it. Everyone maintained his narrow, parochial viewpoint, speaking first as a Frenchman or Pole, not as a European. There wasn't enough globalism, is what they're saying. A lot of this can be ascribed to the rise of the middle classes in Russia, China, and India. Like their Western counterparts before them in the 19th and 20th centuries, they are wealthy enough now to decry the health hazards associated with pollution and rapid growth. They wanted their governments to take action, rapid growth. That's a term that's always, something to be concerned about when you're dealing with these types of reports, because, well, we already went over population and eugenics. Anyways, they wanted their governments to take action, but they did not. The middle classes have been incensed by the shoddy construction and poor planning that led directly to large numbers of casualties when disasters struck. Anti-corruption and environmentalism merged. As the poor in sub-Saharan Africa and elsewhere suffered more and more from climate change, religious activists also became mobilized. Migrants pushed off unproductive land and unable to get access to clean water technologies turned to churches for help. And it's funny because I chose to skip by, for sake of time, like I keep saying, the whole section I wanted to get into about clean water technologies. But that was a big section of this report. Maybe we'll do it next time if I happen to do this again. Or again, I told you it's the second link on my description page if you want to read it yourself. But they talk a lot about clean water technologies being a pivotal technology that'll change things by the year 2025. And I find that interesting too, because, right now, between, again, the World Economic Forum and the Bill Gates And there's a lot of scientific funding being put towards the recycling of waste into drinkable water. You know, I don't even got time to open up that can of worms, but, you know, drinking pee, eating poo kind of stuff. But anyways, I didn't get into that. And they don't say it so explicitly as drinking pee and eating poo. But in this report, you will actually find what I was just talking about, how important the Clean Water Initiative is in the year 2025 from the perspective of these NGOs in 2008. And it really is about, so what it really is about is providing clean water to all these nations and peoples that don't have clean water. But yeah, that's the method. It's by recycling waste, amongst other things. But read it into it yourself. I will not go back at this point. But the reason I bring it up is because I just think it's funny how whenever you read through these scenarios, they also always reinforce the points that the report is always trying to make. And it just comes off as real artificial, you know, kind of like, I mean, when you work at a place and you're supposed to, okay, so if you ever had a job where you're supposed to write some type of report, you know, for your job, or you're supposed to, you know, have some type of pitch, or in any way you're supposed to represent a service of the place you work for. Like, it's common that the place you work for will have these certain points that they're going to want you to mention, you know, like make sure you bring up our sale on this, or make sure that whenever you deal with a customer regarding this, you bring up this, you know, potential problem they might have to push this or that. And I'm somebody that's had like 23 or 24 jobs at this point in my life because of situations I'm just not going to get into right now, but I've been through that so many times in different corporate environments, you know, and that's what I'm reminded of whenever I read these scenarios, because you can see how whoever that they give the job of writing up these scenarios. Now, again, it's a group of experts and it's a whole lot of research that goes into these scenarios, but it's one person that ends up, I'm assuming, writing out the actual letters, because they're always depicted in the form of a letter or a diary entry or something like that. In this case, a blog post, right? And you can see the way that whoever writes it is inclined to include the previously mentioned things from the report. That won't be as funny to you guys as it is to me, because you didn't already read through all this stuff today like I did. But that's what's making me smile to myself as they're laying out how migrants pushed off unproductive land, unable to get access to clean water technologies, turned to churches for help, because that was the very scenario laid out in the previous scenario. Read it yourself. You'll see what I'm talking about. I hope that made sense to you guys. Institutions were more savvy than governments in detecting the change. Okay, the annual Davos meeting was transformed several years ago. It brought in a host of activists from these networks and has since established virtual meetings where thousands or more could participate. This is where we're at now, you guys. You think Joe Biden is running America? Or you think Vladimir Zelensky is running Ukraine? You think Putin is running Russia? And all of these players in the world that's happening around us, it is most likely actually subjugated to the authority that's had by these think tanks and NGOs in 2023. In 2023, whatever is being touted by the Klaus Schwabs and the, you know, Yuval Noah Harari or whatever his name is, and these WEF guys and guys like Bill Gates and even George Soros, or in this case, the National Intelligence Council, these NGOs and the agendas that they roll out are more authoritative than any individual government is. And that's why you see the way that all governments are forced to capitulate under the banner of whatever agenda the UN is promoting. And it's been a slow build to this point, you know, like you're going to find reports like this from these different NGOs that go even back before the 1960s. But it was around that time, I think the WEF started in the 70s, the early 70s, I think, is when the World Economic Forum started, unless I'm wrong. Just as kind of a benchmark, though, that introduces us to like the way things are now, where all the marching orders, whether you're Joe Biden or Justin Trudeau or any of these guys, like, it's really coming from these think tanks, right? That's true. I mean, I'm telling you guys, like whatever the UN and the World Economic Forum is talking about this month is what the press secretary and, you know, the presidents are going to be talking about next month. That's a reality. And it's funny because back in the time when a lot of these think tanks were first, you know, coming to any form of prominence, they weren't viewed that way, at least not by the general public. You know, it was still perceived that governments had the sovereignty over their nations, you know, but a lot has changed. And so it's interesting because as we're about to read in this final paragraph here of this particular scenario, in this scenario, the NGOs and the activists actually become like the new government. And I'm here to defend that. I think that that's kind of what's really going on right now. I mean, I really do think that Hollywood and high schoolers and Greta Thunberg and media and all this kind of stuff has a lot more influence than the sitting president of the United States or of any other country. And because of a lot of the stuff that we've gone over previously in these reports that they were, you know, warning people about back in the early 2000s about how the interconnectedness of the internet would enable all of these regular people and countries around the world to interact and to compete, you know, with nation states at a global level, to use the word global. Well, you can see how that's come to happen. And what has it turned into? Well, what it's turned into now is that we have actors for presidents, right? Again, I mentioned Biden. Come on. If he's even the same person anymore, I'm not sure. A likely body double, kind of like a Weekend at Bernie's situation with him. I mentioned Zelensky, right? Who was like a literal actor. You got to look up I think they call it, pardon my French, but the penis piano gig, whatever. Look that up on YouTube and you're just going to see a whole bunch of stuff from how Zelensky back before he was president of Ukraine, you know, I think you guys already know about this. He was like a comedian and an actor, and they're all actors. Well, point is, but who's really running stuff? Well, at this point, I'm telling you, it really is these NGOs. That's like the Great Reset is what we're all being subjected to right now. And that wasn't initiated or announced by Donald Trump or Joe Biden or Barack Obama or George Bush. But mind you, they've certainly gone along with everything that's come out of the UN, all of them that I've just mentioned. But they let us keep voting for one of these guys every 4 years. And that gives us the idea that we're somehow in control of the circumstance that we're going to be, you know, that we're going to be subjected to, and that's going to be enforced on us because we get to vote for one of two Freemasons every 4 years. But in the end, you look back, I mean, again, this is 2004, 2008, and you're going to see how the very agendas that were set in place by these think tanks, even from before this time, turned out to be the exact conditions and situations that would occur and roll out in the real world, regardless of whoever was in power. Right? Because when you elect somebody into power, they sit in their office for what, 4 years? Total of 8 years in America. You know, that's how it is in a lot of democratic countries. And I hope you get the idea of what I'm trying to say. And now I think that we have reached this point where here it's saying that in this scenario, it brought in a host of activists from these networks. That's who I think is running the world now, by the way, activists from those networks. Established virtual meetings where thousands or more could participate. Well, that's what it is now, you guys, with the internet and the World Economic Forum, and even guys like me doing this YouTube channel. That wasn't the reality when this was written in 2008. Okay, but now when a Harari or a Klaus Schwab or whatever, and when you know they have their annual Davos meeting and all these kinds of things, whatever comes out of those meetings ends up being the actual headlines for the real world. No longer are they just, you know, coming up with scenarios and advising governments with how the experts think that they should react to it. And no longer are they just compiling and aggregating statistics, you know, to be useful to governments so that they can make their own sovereign decisions of what they want to do with that information. No, now they set the agenda. And that's where the whole thing comes full circle. They set the agenda that they predicted beforehand but yet the agenda they predicted beforehand turned out to be the conditions that we're in now, right? And if you don't know about the Hegelian dialect, I don't got time to get into it now, but it's another thing you hear often on this channel and channels like this, the old problem, reaction, solution, right? So what better government than the one that creates the problem, right? So that they can provide the solution. And here you're seeing these solutions were already provided 20 years ago for the situations we're having now. And what do those what do the solutions entail? Well, obviously, a global government, an antichrist globalist government. The pressure became too much for member states to ignore. The UNGA set aside 20 seats for NGOs who yearly competed among themselves to take up a seat for a year to have the same voting rights as nation states. International politics has forever changed, even though I doubt these networks can be as effective on other issues. But because, again, since in this scenario, they're dealing with an end of the world type apocalyptic situation of global warming, or maybe a pandemic, or maybe an alien invasion, looking at what we have in the news now. But again, in the scenario, because of the apocalyptic situation, it was necessary for these activists and NGOs to take over. And so that's why this fictional blog writer, you know, in this fictional scenario comments and makes the point that, you know, when it comes to in a time of a different issue, my guess is national, religious, ethnic, and class differences will resurface, or that, you know, a traditional style of government would be ideal. But in this case, the activists being in control is ideal because the environment was tailor-made. It says right here, the environment was tailor-made because the widespread commonality of interest in avoiding Armageddon. And that's where they got us now. And that's where all the fear mongering, and that's where the global warming, and that's where, you know, like they literally, like we're being told that the world's going to end unless we, across the entire world, unless we subjugate ourselves to these agendas of these think tanks that have been planning up this new world order for all these decades. And yeah, precedent will, but the achievement stands and the precedent set will make it hard for governments to ignore NGOs. Again, 2008, this is like wishful thinking here. Because at that point, the governments were kind of ignoring NGOs. Who cares what a Klaus Schwab has to say? It's not like that anymore. Maybe they can even begin to partner, which has also happened now, on the back of a crisis. What type of crisis? I don't know. Perhaps the pandemic that was literally and exhaustively written about, predicted, and promoted in these two reports that I shared with you guys today. We went, I know I didn't read every single part to you guys, but I went through the pages in front of you. There's a lot of different scenarios that they played through, but you saw the pandemic come up more than once, and that there's so much more I could share, but I guess that'll be the last one. Global warming being used as a catalyst to bring in a new form of global governance in which climate activism has more authority than the sitting government. So I hope that I was able to adequately present that information to you guys. Amber's gonna, nope, Amber, you're gonna wait 1 second. It's time for me to go on to my last little, do I have any more commercials for them? Did I do them all? All right, Amber, I don't have any more commercials for them. Okay, well, Amber is coming to say, the problem is I really, really have to go.
Tinkle.
I gotta go pee, and I didn't want to tell you guys more than you want to know, but I was gonna tell Amber I gotta go number 1, but I don't remember right. I think number 2 is poo. I know it rhymes. I don't have to do that. Is number 1 pee, you guys? Anybody?
Are you serious?
Is 1 pee?
You have to ask a poll?
I don't.
Yeah, it's like, I don't, well.
I need an answer on that.
I don't know. I'm giving you the answer. I don't know if it's like a universal thing, but yes, number 1 is pee.
Number one is P. I got to go number one, you guys. And then me and Amber are gonna hang out with you guys for a minute and say goodnight.
No, I'm just so cold.
I know you're so cold. No, this will just take me a second to upload. Let's just talk while this uploads. Hit them with that, and then because trust me, these guys don't want to say goodbye. They love me just as much as I love them. One is P. Mo says, Tim, go to the restroom.
Seriously,
that might have been a better way to word that. Who knows what number 3 is? Probably something the girl has to do. We got 2 options. I know. I'm sorry, you guys. The live streams often devolve into this type of situation.
Is like nobody. First of all, nobody cares.
No, it's not that they care. It's that
nobody even needs to know.
No, they do need to know. They need to understand that there's a reason that I need to put them on hold one last final time before we say our goodbyes.
I'm going through Tim's phone
and it's because I gotta pee. Amber's going through my phone, you guys.
Well, I'm trying to find the weather app. Here it is.
Okay, Amber's looking up the weather. So yeah, we're gonna come right back and hang out with you guys. But while I'm waiting for this,
I'm just so cold.
So yeah, you're gonna see what it's like tomorrow. So how is the weather where you guys are at? We can chat for a little bit. In fact, if you guys have any questions for me and Amber, and you guys want to talk a little bit, start sending them now, because when I get back from the bathroom, I'm getting worried about Tim's bladder. You guys, I know, me too. Seriously, no, as soon as this commercial break uploads, I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna talk to you guys. We can answer questions. We can talk about stuff you guys bring up. We can talk about our lives.
Do you know what I want to say?
And in the end, we're gonna say goodnight. What?
Really quick is like, so I just pulled up your weather app and you have New York. That's like the
well, I'm not going to tell my location.
Right. No, but like that's what's the word? Like that's just automatically like what your phone goes to. I clicked on the weather app and it's like New York is 55.
Yeah.
Have you ever even been to New York?
No. But the NSA thinks that's where I am right now.
Never gonna go.
Well, except for not now. Now I got to change it again.
I don't ever want to go there. Anyways, I'm gonna add our little town.
How's the weather where you guys are at? It's freezing here, that's for sure. Where you at, Crunchy Tacos?
No, it's not freezing yet.
You know what's sad? One of my favorite subscribers, she's not here right now. Her YouTube name is Morgellons, something to do with Morgellons disease. She's like an advocate against it. Good friend. I love her. Don't want to say her name. She's from Germany. And I think, unless I'm confusing subscribers now, so Morgellons or however you pronounce it. If you see this and you're not from Germany, remind me, then maybe it's someone else. But one of my favorite subscribers is German. My last 2 uploads, 2 of these parodies that I want to, that's what I wanted to actually share with you guys. 2 of these parodies that I've made recently were banned in Germany. I don't know why. I was told that they were going to be banned. I put them up anyways, both in Germany. So I don't know if the Germans have something against Fallen World Films or what. But Morgellons, if you see this, your cousin Brent isn't able to see this. He's in Germany. Any of my German subscribers, you're missing out on my 2 recent videos. So get an IP thing, and you'll be able to see them. And I would suggest you do that. All right, a quick word from our sponsors, you guys, and we'll be back to say our goodbyes and maybe show you one more treat or something.
But real
Who knows?
quick,
it's wild card. It might be up all night.
It's 34 degrees.
Yeah, okay. So it's almost freezing temperatures here. We're in Wisconsin, known as the frozen tundra.
I'm so cold.
We don't have fall anymore, you guys. So climate change is definitely real. It is weird. It is real. I feel like I don't see dew anymore. When it's sunny and like in the summers and the grass is never too wet, and then we don't have any fall in the wintertime. So good job, National Intelligence Council, on that. However, I can't imagine.
Thanks, Greta.
Yeah, thanks, Greta Thunberg. But I can't imagine the solution.
That's not when I say her name.
That's how I say her name. I looked it up before I made a recent video about her to see how most journalists say her name. Some people said Thunberg, like I always said, but I noticed some British people saying Thunberg. Obviously, if you have a British accent, you're probably smarter than an American. So I assume they're right.
Well, you don't see me trying to say her name.
No, you don't have to. You're not hosting the show. I can say it right. I got to say it right. You're not expected to. All right, guys, I'm going to be right back. And who knows what we got left for you guys. Maybe a lot, maybe a little. Who knows? But we love you.
Maybe nothing.
Maybe nothing. Maybe this is it. Stick around. You'll find out. but I hope you stick around.
And now a word from our sponsors.
Hi folks, I'm Frankie Flight. I want you to check out Hoot Wireless next to Subway, Equipment Highway, right here in Motor. Tell your family, friends, and neighbors to come in and check us out. Check out all our plans. That and much more. Hoot Wireless. Hoot Wireless.
Hi, I'm Lady Jock. Come in and check out Julio. He'll hook you up right here. Hoot Wireless.
Hoot Wireless. Hoot Wireless.
Hey, how y'all doing? This is Julio with Hoot Wireless. Come and check us out. We got anything you need as far as wireless goes.
Hoot Wireless. Don't forget to check out Hoot Wireless next to Subway, Equipment Highway, right here in Motor. Hoot Wireless.
Where's the bass? Where's the bass? The Super Stereo Warehouse has all the bass.
Big woofers. Look at all these amps. That's crazy. Little woofers.
Major brand CD players.
DVDs for the car.
Car alarms.
Installation while you wait, and we'll make sure you have plenty of bass.
I found it! I found it! I found the bass!
Find the bass only in North Seattle at Super Stereo Warehouse.
Flash freezing is what makes Sub-Zero the smoothest and creamiest ice cream on Earth.
I guess I gotta wait.
And now that best part. That magical taste that only the science of Sub-Zero can create.
Wow, look at that steaming.
That looks nice.
Whoa, it's steaming.
Check it out. Oh, this is good. You guys try this.
Let me have some of yours. We'll try a little bit of that.
Hey, get out of there.
This is too good to share.
Oh, come on. This place. I just love this place. I propose a toast to Sub-Zero. Woo! It's everything they said it would be. Visit the Sub-Zero in Federal Way, located between PetSmart and Best Buy. You'll be glad you did. Back to the show.
All right, guys. Amber is yelling at me right now to not turn up the heat. She's saying she's freezing right now, but whatever I do, don't turn up the heat. I'm sitting there being like, babe, the show is about to come back on right now. And she's like, no, you listen to me. Do not. No, you didn't sound like that. I know. No, but I'm not saying you sound like that. Listen, did you hear the voice I did for the Islamist arms dealers?
You guys, because our energy bill is $318 this month, okay?
We don't got money like that, you guys. That's why you need to support us by by purchasing some of those products that you just saw advertised.
Right.
Yeah, located.
What?
Okay, so you guys, I can end this whenever I want, or I can keep going as long as I want. A lot of you, I only got a few people watching right now, but usually since we do these live streams so late, most people watch it the next day while they are at work, just like I do. I listen to most YouTube videos at work. I don't even watch most of them, which is frustrating because with Fallen World Films, obviously, one thing that I hope, but I try to separate this channel from others is that I put a lot of work into the visual aspect of my videos, not in the live streams, but in our movies, as you guys hopefully have noticed. But I'm aware that most of the subscribers probably don't even watch the videos. Some subscribers that love the channel probably have never even seen the work that I put in on the end of the video part. They just listen to it while they're at work, which I understand. Like I said, I do the same. But if you happen to be listening to this at work right now, let me let you know that you're missing out on a lot of cool visual stuff going on in the documentaries. So me and Amber are going to say goodnight to you guys in just a second, because now you got to watch this, which is hilarious. If you didn't catch it before, this is one of the parodies that I've been making lately that I've been talking about. It's called Impractical Joe. It's only 3 minutes long, 3 Illuminati style minutes long. So don't go run away. I really think this will make you laugh. And if you already saw it, it's only 3 minutes long. YouTube does not help me share any of my content. I'm thinking these types of parody things maybe are the type of thing that could go viral. I'm trying to step outside the box, do something that's not so New World Order controversial. Maybe it'll get tons of views. Doesn't work. Whatever. But guess what it is? It's hilarious. So you watch this, you laugh, and
All the crazy names we have to call out have been written by the other guys.
The goal is to read these crazy names without laughing. Whoever laughs the least wins.
Of course, we see another first in the nomination of Ketanji. Well, you saw her. I guess you saw Justice Brown Jackson.
What is it? What is it?
We cheer for Muslim athletes like Kareem Jones, Shingang,
Say the names and get to the next one.
Shanga,
Try to say it.
Kawawa. Two of the great artists of our time representing the groundbreaking legacy of hip-hop in America, LL Cool J. By the way, that man's got biceps bigger than my thighs.
That's Joe's newborn son.
Nothing weird about shaking hands, right, Joe?
Well, today there is. Today we've got to go up to people and find a way to shake their hand for as long as possible.
La France et les États-Unis affronteront l'avenir comme nous l'avons toujours fait, confiants dans nos capacités communes, soutenus par la force de nos valeurs partagées, sans se laisser détruire les défis qui nous attendent. Et les liens que nous construisons aujourd'hui entre les étudiants, les employés, et être renforcés pendant les décennies à venir.
Sense, man.
This is weird.
This is weird.
Que Dieu bénisse nos deux nations et que Dieu protège
Make noises though, like eat like crazy.
Joe lost, so today we're here at the Complex NYC.
And just stare at him. Just stare.
That's it.
Stare at him. Until it becomes so uncomfortable that we all can't take it.
Mr. President.
He's got nothing. He's broken down. It's brilliant. Dude, they're staring at you like you're having a heart attack, these people.
Joe, get out from behind the desk and go to the file cabinet.
Mr. President, thank you. At the end of such a momentous event, the word thank you seems kind of inadequate. But for all the millions whose lives will be saved, for the communities where life will be transformed, thank you, President Biden.
I think it's funny, but I've always been pretty amused by impractical jokers. Not the most valuable entertainment, but probably some of the most quality. Just so dang funny. So, Amber, now we are approaching 3 hours. We are past midnight. It's a work night.
Before I even got here.
I don't know what time it is for you guys. It's past midnight in Wisconsin. That means I have to be tying it up soon. But I do want to. We might as well just watch this other parody together real quick too, and then yeah, let's just do it. Not just funny. On point. Did you notice it said no mark, no service, no Christians? But in reality, it said no mask, no service, no exceptions. I thought that was really clever.
He humiliated me intentionally. And an attendant from the restroom asked to see my ID. They didn't ask anybody else. And when I asked why, they said it's because I have to have female on my ID in order to access the restroom. That's wrong, but first of all, and second of all, I'm not going to show my ID to use the restroom. Went back inside, went straight to him, and he said, I still don't, think that you're allowed to use the restroom. I gave him one more chance. I said that I work for the Human Rights Campaign. I need you to make a course correction right now because this is about to get very bad.
All right. My favorite comment on that video was my mother-in-law, Kate. Kate.
Really?
She said it's about to get very bad indeed. But yeah, anyway, so little parody videos. That's the new thing I'm going to be doing for fun now and for interjecting into these shows. Yeah, I know, right? So always make sure to let me know in the comments or hit me up on fallenworldfilms@protonmail.com if you have a funny idea of something that I can edit, like some scene from a movie or something that I can edit into some kind of funny anti-New World Order kind of thingy. And I'll try to do it. Same goes for show tips or any other kind of thing that maybe you want me to talk about or show on one of these live streams, which I'll continue to tell you guys I intend to do more often, but who knows if that'll happen. Now, anyways, my beautiful wife, Amber, drinking your White Claw, hanging out after work, being married, and having a family. Let's talk about something real quick before we go. Look right here. Let's talk about Halloween. So Halloween is coming up on Tuesday, I think, whenever the 31st is. Don't know if you guys got Halloween plans, but let me tell you guys this. Finally, this year, we're not doing Halloween. Some of you might be surprised and assume that we hadn't done Halloween all along, because I know I have some hardcore Christian subscribers that are, fully against the New World Order, just as I am. But not just the New World Order, but Satanism, I understand the historic origins of Halloween and Samhain and all that kind of stuff. And so Halloween's really bad, But to be honest with you guys, we've always, I don't want to say celebrated it, but kind of did it. Growing up, Amber and I both trick-or-treated,
No, wait, what?
Yeah. Oh, no, you didn't.
I've never gone trick-or-treating in my life.
You never went trick-or-treating? Lame. Yeah, no, I remember that now. I forgot.
No, but I don't know.
Yeah, I did. I grew up doing it. And for one reason.
No, but your dad.
So when I grew up.
Stopped.
No, I mean, I grew up, later in life. When I was like a teenager, my parents,
No, your dad said before then. You guys were younger.
When I was a little kid, we would do trick or treat for sure. I remember it. I remember dressing up and going out and trick or treating. I came from a Christian family, and at some point, my family did stop, but it wouldn't. Not really though. I mean, I was already at an age where I didn't care about trick or treating, anyways. We didn't celebrate there's nothing to celebrate. First off, Halloween is not a holiday. It's not a holy day. It is a satanic day, but I'm not about to get you guys into the history of Halloween. I'm sure all my other fellow Christian YouTube truthers have done that this year. every year we all put out some kind of Halloween thing where we tell you about the origins of it. Of course, it's satanic. Maybe I'll do that at some point. No, but you know what? As far as Christianity, no bueno. So this was the first year that we were like, you know what, we can't do this anymore. Because our kids, that's what I wanted to say. I just want to be honest with you guys. Like, they've done the dress up trick-or-treating thing. They see it all around them. Everyone they know does it, you know. And when you're a little kid and like you're dressing up your little 4-year-old as a dinosaur and as a superhero or whatever it is, and they're just getting candy.
It's for the kids to
get
candy.
Right. And even
no, but honestly, so it's been like, okay, so I grew up, I've never gone trick-or-treating. Like, me and my brother, I just have one brother. We would like pass out candy at our house. So like we always had our light on. We would pass candy out. We never did it. I felt like.
Did you feel like you were missing out on something?
Yeah, I really did growing up. You know, I was just kind of like jealous. Like it's a fun thing. You're dressing up and getting
Would you
candy.
guys like still get candy?
Well, I mean, my parents would buy candy so
to give to the other kids, and then you would still get to eat it.
But we were not allowed to dress up.
Right.
But anyways, I don't know. My upbringing was like, I don't know, kind of weird. My parents couldn't really like back anything. They just would say things, and you know, we never opened the Bible or prayed or like, I don't know.
So like you came from the church, which is where I know Amber from.
Oh yeah,
because we grew up together, but right. So like they knew it was bad and it wasn't Christian, but they didn't really understand why or anything.
Right.
Like that.
It wasn't like really ever explained. Anyway, so like when I started to have kids, it was like, you know, I never went trick-or-treating, so I never experienced like any fun part of it. For me, it was like,
well, I did, and it was so much fun.
Right, and I'm sure. And that's, you know, I feel like why most parents do it. But like I don't know. I didn't really care. I don't really care about Halloween. And I always felt like, even before I was a Christian, like I always felt like it was just like a dark.
Well, it is. I mean, it's a surreal thing to be driving around. I mean, before I was a Christian, before I was a Christian, I was anti-New World Order and anti-Illuminati. And it was around that time, I remember around Halloween, just recognizing like that some type of like terribly evil and weird, wicked and just strange agenda behind the reality that once a year, regular families are decorating their yards with dead bodies hanging from trees.
So that's the thing. So
witches.
Yeah, I always felt like it was just, I don't know, just really like a dark like holiday, if you can call it that. But our 6-year-old daughter, Eden, has just been questioning it like a lot. And she's like, what, you know, why are there skeletons in yards? Why are there gravestones? I mean, she's just a little girl that, you know, she's like your typical little girl that doesn't understand it. And like Halloween is supposed to be like a fun, you know, you just get candy, right? But I don't know. I mean,
to try to explain to a 6-year-old like that you are censoring from watching things that you find inappropriate, and yet you can't drive home from church without them seeing corpses in yards and like dead bodies hanging
like
from
literally
trees.
Scares her. Like it scares her. So, anyways.
Well, yeah, but
this is our first year. Like, we're not doing it.
So
anymore.
we're not doing it.
The kids have had a great attitude. Like, so.
Tell them what we did do.
Oh, we had like, well, actually, I first want to say that like, okay, so I take two kids to like archery on Mondays. And last week I kind of like broke it to them. I was like, we're not gonna do trick-or-treating anymore. And they like had the best attitude and were like, understood.
They understood because while we've been doing Halloween hypocritically, I've like me and Amber have been telling them, but it's kind of bad and we really shouldn't do it. But there you go. You know, put on your costume.
Get your candy.
Yeah. And so like the writing was kind of on the wall for the kids. And this year when we were like, we're not going to do it, they had a real good attitude about it. And so instead we did this little fall party kind of deal.
It was
and we
so
went to my
much
mom's
fun.
house and we set up all these different games. And these games were awesome. One of them was for all the big, now mind you, we have 6 kids, 5 of whom were at this event. And my brother, who's my best friend, has how many kids?
7, and they were all
7
there.
kids, and they were all there. So whenever me and my brother, who's my best friend, get together, also
and his brother's wife, my sister-in-law, is
Amber's best
my
friend.
best friend.
Right. So I'm best friends with my brother,
And we just hang
Amber's
out
best
all
friends
the
with
time.
my brother's wife. We
But
hang out all the
Doug's
time,
also
and we both have like giant families.
We're all just best friends.
And we're all best friends.
We're all one family.
And we have a little bit of a socialist, communist commune. But in a way, but just joking, but also kind of serious because between the 2 families, we share and we take care of each other.
Yeah.
My brother's a lot like me. And actually, he was my partner in Waking Up Wisconsin magazine. He's just as woken up as I am. He, behind the scenes, he informs a lot of this channel. But anyways, we say all that to say this. This year, we got together with him, my brother, their kids. So that's between the 2 of them. How many? What's 7 plus 6? What's 7 plus 5 that were there? 12. There were 12 kids. Me, Amber, my brother, his wife, my parents. And some of the games that we put together were like, all the big kids, they got to blow up a balloon, including me and Amber and the grown-ups. We wrote our names on these balloons.
Not the babies.
Not the babies with this one. And we made this cage out of cardboard boxes. We put all of our balloons in there. Just let me say it, Amber. And my dad had this RC kind of car, but it was automatic. It wasn't really remote control. It's a car. It's a toy car that's designed to turn around and go in a different direction as soon as it hits something, right? And what he did was my dad did this. He taped needles all around the car, kind of like a battle bot kind of situation. And we just let the car go, and it was just going around, bouncing off walls. And every time and if it hit a balloon, it would pop it, right? And whichever the last balloon standing was with your name on it won a prize or something. Stupid game.
$20.
It was so fun.
2 rounds.
Dude, if you guys decide to stop doing Halloween like we did, which I encourage you to do, and it's not too late. It's not Halloween yet. You don't have to participate in this devil's holiday. You can cut it clean just like we did. And I suggest this game, the balloon popping with the little car thing. Game.
No,
all you got to do is go on Amazon, find whatever the car is my dad got. Listen, this game was so fun. But we did that. We did bobbing for apples.
Fun. We did
classic.
Bobbing for apples.
Classic fall time.
So much fun. The adults, we didn't even have. So our plan was to let all the kids bob for apples. And, they're kind of gross and whatever. We were going to drain the water, get new water, and the adults do it. But there was so much going on, so we didn't actually have a chance to do it, which is fine because it was just so much fun watching the kids do it. It was so cute. And then we did pumpkin painting. My niece Allie is an amazing artist, so her mom got her this face painting kit, and she painted all of the little kids' faces. We just brought all of our costumes, and the kids just had at them all night. They changed costumes numerous times. It was so much fun.
And so these are some traditions that are vaguely associated with Halloween, but we did this the other day, and
it was
it's not fall. October. We call it a fall
I don't
thing.
know. We're working on the title. It's
you guys,
the first year doing it.
We're working it out, but it was a success. And for anybody that happens to watch this that has young kids, which I know is a lot of my subscribers, this isn't the first time I've talked about Halloween with you guys. I made the plunge, man. We didn't do it. We're not going to do it anymore. And it worked really well to do our little fall thing. The kids still had a bunch of fun, and I got no guilt associated with it. So that was good. We're going to be doing a similar thing for Christmas as well. Still gonna celebrate Christmas. And yes, I know that Jesus was not born on December 25th. Amber knows that. It's the celebration of the winter solstice and all that kind of stuff. I get it. But what we're going to do is focus more on family stuff. The kids are going to get way less presents than they have in the past. But we're going to replace it with more valuable type stuff.
Experiences.
So we're just kind of, we're making some of these small decisions in our family. Thought I'd mention it. I mean, we just happened to talk about it, but me and Amber are by no means like in a position to be mentors to anybody, any subscribers or anything like that. Just regular people like you that are just trying our best to figure out a way to live in this fallen world while still honoring God with our lifestyles, and it can be a hard thing to manage. So I just wanted to share that little story of success with you guys. Yeah, family is way more better than Halloween. You're right, Mr. Original. And glad to have you here, dude.
No, I feel like this.
You guys got any
fall fasting? Oh my gosh, it was so much fun. Yeah. Way more fun than trick or treating, because actually I remember like 2 or 3 years ago there was literally a blizzard during trick or treating hours, and so me and my brother-in-law took the kids. Granted, there weren't that many back then. We were a few kids down, but like, yeah, it was me and him, and it was like a blizzard, and we're just like walking around getting candy because, it's fun for the kids. I understand that, but no, I'm over it.
Yep, and we're leaving it behind, you guys. Besides for that, as if you guys care, we're just living our life, raising all these kids, and it's not always easy, you guys. And I think sometimes with this channel about, I feel fully qualified to make the movies I make and to come on here and tell you guys about, the stuff that regarding the New World Order, because I really am, been engulfed in this world in a long time, and I have learned a lot. But being a Christian, then obviously I have to also preach on my channel, and I also have to spread the gospel, which I think I do, and I intend to do. It leaves me sometimes with this sense of like hypocrisy, just because I don't ever want to come off to you guys like I'm trying to be not only holier than thou, but even just like, I'm not a pastor. We're all called to be preachers. If you're a Christian, we're all supposed to be spreading the gospel. So that's what I'm trying to do. Like, this is my platform, and it wouldn't be right if like I didn't share the gospel. But sometimes, I feel sort of bad because I'm like, man, I don't want any subscribers looking up to me like I'm some type of example of a guy that's doing everything right, because I'm not. Like, God's blessed my family a lot. I am happily married with all these kids. And I know that's a really good example in today's day and age. But I'm also, just like you guys, just your brother in Christ who's struggling with my own sins. I got secret sins like I know Amber does. We have struggles, and we're just like you guys, we have put our faith completely in the gospel of Jesus Christ. We're leaning completely on Jesus for our salvation, not by any works that we can do. And I have the advantage when it comes to this channel, like everything that I say or put out there, I have time to like think about or decide what I'm going to talk about. It's not necessarily an accurate reflection of what I'm going through in my own daily life or my own, spiritual condition or spiritual warfare. And that's the case with any type of Christian channel out there. And so I wasn't planning on saying that, but I just feel like saying it, because in that regard, we could use your guys' prayer. I do pray for you guys and in general. I just pray for my subscribers in general. But also just want to encourage you guys that, you know, we are all in the exact same spot when it comes to the situation the world's in right now, this incoming new world order that I'm always, you know, railing about on this channel, and trying to resist the temptations of sin. I'm no better than any of you guys. I just really want to say that because it's, I don't know, it's just important. So I go through my channel sometimes and it's like, you know, I just want you guys to know that I'm right there with you, struggling. Mo says, "Oh man, you mean you're fallible?" Maybe there's somebody that needed to hear me say that. I don't know. I know that me and Amber are both real down to earth on this channel, but I do get emails and message comments every once in a while that make me feel, you know, of people that I feel like are putting a little too much faith and confidence into me or this channel, and that I just want to publicly renounce that I'm not in a position, you know, put your faith in Christ.
You mean that you're fallible?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm
Dude, I love you, Mom.
Yeah, I love Mo too, man. I love all you guys.
Well, I don't even know if Tim caught like the comments or whatever, but like I would love it if you and Nancy came out this way.
Yeah. Mo, you ever come out this way, you better visit, buddy.
Well, like
And you better let me look at that chunk of the Georgia Guidestone that Dr. Clown gave you. I know about that. I want to see that.
No, like talk
I want to
about
hold it.
Bring it to me.
Okay.
Their whole goal with this philosophy is to teach all men and women that the only end of life is to seek the utmost pleasure and happiness that you can get out of it, because when you die, there's nothing else. That's what they teach. That's what they want you to be. They don't want laws against sexual promiscuity. That's why they don't want families. That's why they don't want marriage. That's why they encourage homosexuality. There's a method to their madness. There's really not much method to yours, because you're operating from a place of ignorance. And until you change that, you're going to be bumbling around, bumping into each other, saying and doing the wrong things, not understanding the nature of your enemy. And if you don't understand the nature of your enemy and the weapons they use, you cannot fight that enemy. You can't fight the battle. You shouldn't even be on the battlefield. That's why you're losing the war. And don't tell me you're not, because I'm in a place of great knowledge about who's winning and who's losing this war. And I can assure you, you're losing the war. Doesn't mean it can't be turned around.
The question of how and why the United Nations is the crux of the great conspiracy to destroy the sovereignty of the United States and the enslavement of the American people within a UN one-world dictatorship is a complete and unknown mystery to the vast majority of the American people. The reason for this unawareness of the frightening danger to our country and to the entire free world is simple. The masterminds behind this great conspiracy have absolute control of all of our mass communications media, especially television, the radio, the press, and Hollywood. We all know that our State Department, the Pentagon, and the White House have brazenly proclaimed that they have the right and the power to manage the news, to tell us not the truth, but what they want us to believe.
Well, it's not the truth, but what they want us to believe. That was Myron Fagan back in the 50s. All right, guys, so it's about time for us to wrap it up. I'm messing around here with the backgrounds. Don't know what's going on here. Yeah, I don't know why it looks like that, but whatever. It's 12:38. I got to get up in the morning and go to work. So let me just say I love you guys. And I know Amber loves you, I think. Yeah.
I do. Dude, my hair looks insane right now.
Understand when I say I love you guys, I'm talking more specifically about people like Mo TBR. Love you more than the average subscriber. Talked to you personally before. Want to talk to you guys more. DK Spiracy, love you more than the average subscriber. I know you personally. We've become friends. Chunky Tacos, I feel like we're becoming friends. You came here through DK Spiracy.
No, I love
You're
you
my
guys
boy.
too. It's been
I love you more than the average subscriber. Now, mind you, anybody I'm talking to right now, you can be loved by me more than the average subscriber. All you got to do is talk to me. Get into these chats. Be part of this community. Mr. Original, you popped in there. I love you. I will always remember that Mr. Original is better than the average subscriber who doesn't talk to me. Well, it is what it is. You know what? I'm over 5,000 subscribers now. It's time to shed some. I don't want to get too big. I need to stay small and underground. That's always been my thing ever since my music days. Look, I'm going up. It's just all you guys talking.
Yeah, so
Jessica was here. Love you more than the average subscriber, Jessica. Who else? Oh, Rage Against the Machine. You know I love you more than the average subscriber.
He was kind of feisty.
He was a little fight, but I don't care. He's talking to me.
Dude, that's his style.
I love Rage. Yeah, exactly. I love it too. You know why? He's at least talking to me. He comes in all the time. He's my boy. Amber, I love you more than the average subscriber.
Why would you
Okay, you guys
highlight that comment?
Oh, I was just looking through. We got so many. Quinn Temple, you popped in tonight. Love you more than the average subscriber. You guys get the idea. I hope that as we do our next live stream, more and more of you will start to get into the comments and talking with one another. You'll learn that that's really where the most action is going on. As I fumble through doing my little presentation, all the real fun is being happened in the live chat. Anyways, had a great time with you guys tonight. Hope you took something from those reports we looked at from the National Intelligence Council. I don't remember what they were called now, but they're in the description below. Download those links. Join us next time. I'm going to keep trying to bring you guys information I find pertinent and entertaining and whatever else. In the meantime, just pray for us. Pray for yourselves. If you haven't put your faith in Jesus Christ, that's my best advice to you, because we're in some troubling and weird times. And but you can be forgiven for your sins, and you can be ushered into paradise right alongside of me and Amber. But all you need to do is stop depending on yourself and put your faith in God and in the sacrifice, that he made for us through Jesus. Love you guys, and goodbye.
My God's talking, said he would ride on the wind and tide. Children, stop still and listen to me. God walked down to the blinded sea. He declared that he was the son of man, and then he decided to restore the land. He spoke to Noah. Noah stopped and said, Noah, I want you to build me an ark. I want you to build it 3 cubits long. I want you to build it big and strong. I want it 50 high and 50 wide, so it will stand the wind and tide. Oh no, I'm not gonna ride on the wind and tide, but there's a I'm not gonna ride on the wind and my God's talking, they would ride on the wind and tide. Well, after the foundation was laid, then Noah began to hew and build. The ringing of the hammer cried judgment, the hewing of the saw cried sin and repent. 100 years he hammered and sawed, building the ark by the grace of God. When the ark was done, God's voice was heard. He said, now Noah, let me tell you what to do. Calling the animals 2 by 2, so he hauled them in the ark. 2 by 2, he called the bird, the ox with the kangaroo, and they call in Jeff-like, the ham and the Sam. Then God began to flood the land. He raised his hands to heaven on high, shook the stars and moved from the sky, shook the mountains, he troubled the sea. He went to his chariot to wheel. He stepped on land, stood on the shore, and he climbed that time. There wouldn't be no more birds. Oh no, I'm not gonna ride on the wind and tide, but there's a